Yes.
Is it?
I think we're about to. Here we go. And there we are.
We're rolling.
We're rolling.
We're live.
Hi, everybody.
We're going. All right.
They just see our,
Speed.
all they're seeing is our little mug right there.
Okay. I see. Well, first things first.
Me side-eyeing you.
Oh. First things
Sorry,
first. No, it's all good. We got to thank Westwood Avenue.
Westwood Avenue.
Yep.
I'd like to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is gonna be a good one. I can already tell.
That's right.
This is by far the best plug we've done so far.
Yeah.
You're fitting right in, Andy.
Let the kickback start.
if you,
What do they do? What do you need? Why do we need to call Westwood Avenue?
Westwood Avenue is a marketing think tank firm here in Nashville, Tennessee. If you got any stories you need to tell, you're trying to build your branding, trying to get your product out to market, you're trying to figure out how to tell your story, you check out Westwood Avenue. Give Tom a call. He'd love to sit
Get
down and talk
old
with
Tom
you.
a call.
Give old
Give
Tom a
he's
call.
good. He's a good boy. He'll take care of you.
Go to westwoodavenue.com and check it out. Without further ado,
A doo-doo baby.
we're going to roll.
Hi, everybody. Now you can see us. And Andy. Happy Thursday, September 28th. So glad that you could join us tonight on this beautiful Tennessee night. I don't know if it's Tennessee night where you are, but it's Tennessee night here.
Don't cough into the mic. Don't
Yeah,
cough into the mic.
don't cough. Don't say P. Don't say any P words that we talking about.
Don't cough into the mic. All right. Matt, why don't you introduce our guests to the listeners?
Hi, Andy.
Hello, Matt.
Everybody say hi, Andy. We've got Andy Ellis. Yeah, that's right. Andy Ellis.
We have too many white towels here on the table.
We'll
It's
get the
really-
white towels off there. Get those off there. It's throwing the theme off.
Yeah.
It's
let's
throwing our
just-
local beer theme off. Let's just show these off real quick. I got Mill Creek IPA. What do you got? What do you got, Andy? Oh yeah, this is from Mill Creek.
Oh,
The
it's
Woodshed IPA.
Made in
Mill Creek.
Nolensville,
Made
Tennessee.
Nolensville, Tennessee.
All right. I have Jackalope Thunder Ann.
That's right.
And Thunder Ann is awesome.
You jam.
No
Thunder
smash.
Ann's your
Yeah,
jam.
Great jam.
And I'm drinking some Little Harpeth
Mm-hmm.
Chicken Scratch, my fave, one of my faves
Yeah.
in Nashville's.
Shout out to Ross Welbin, who
having
used
some Nashville
to
beers.
yeah, Nashville Beers, who used to work for Little Harpeth, but you can listen to him. He's like episode 5 or 6 or something. But
Oh, man.
anyways, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about episode 30.
30. You guys have done 30 of these. This is really an amazing thing. It's an accomplishment.
Woo, woo.
You know,
High fives
because
all around.
all I can say is, having been in publishing so many decades myself and watched people have ideas that peter out after 5 weeks, 5 months,
Right.
a year and a half,
Sure.
18 months outside. Put a lot of energy in, but it peters out. 30 episodes. So what is that? Are you into your 18th month now?
Like 18th month? Is
I mean,
that
it's
it?
once.
Are you going to peter out?
No, man. We're getting
started.
we're trying to figure out how to
Getting
keep
started.
how to like just make it keep lifting it every week. No, it's been a whole lot of fun, but I get it because I've been in that boat. There's been some things where you get where it's just a good idea or a bad idea, and sometimes if it's a bad idea, you're lucky to be able to jump off it at an early enough to let go of it. Because there's been times I've let those go. But this is one of those things that this is a good idea.
30
We need to
is
keep this
it's
up.
just a
30
lot
is
of fun.
remarkable. Props to
Thank
you.
you.
Guys.
Thank you. It's
Well,
a lot of fun.
And you know what? Props to you for working what you've done in the journalistic world in the past. Because the best part is like you impacted. Because I have been a premier guitar reader, or was, especially when I first started playing guitar and everything, and even onto that it became so my life. But you, sir, senior editor of Premier Guitar, along with a lot of other publications that you've been a part of,
Yeah.
and you also run the guitar show here in Nashville, Tennessee.
And I've retired the guitar show.
Oh, you did?
But I am fully engaged in the journalism thing, and I spent 16 years at Guitar Player magazine, where I really learned under the tutelage of editors who were much more experienced. You know, I was just a
And were you just a writer? I mean, is
no,
that
I got
like
on
where,
staff. I got on staff, yeah. So,
But for writing, is that what you were doing?
when you're on staff, your title becomes editor.
Okay.
Even though that includes a lot of writing. And in the past, for me, I can close up onto the mic
No,
and
you're
get
good.
all
I got
sexy.
you.
Okay. And generally, what happens when you join a guitar magazine?
And you become an editor.
I've joined 2 guitar magazines, and before that, Keyboard magazine for 2 years, which was part of the big company that owned Guitar Player. So anyway, when you join on staff, you get an editor badge.
Right.
Now, when you start, there's a certain degree of grunt work involved with running a magazine. And then when you evolve a little bit and you become an associate editor rather than an assistant editor, you get to fly. Back in the day when they had budgets, you could get to fly and do interviews. And I did a lot of writing.
That's cool.
A lot of writing and a lot of flying and a lot of going places and meeting amazing guitarists.
And this was all for Guitar Player magazine.
Yeah.
God,
So this was right. Was this like your first gig in the journalistic world?
I did do 2 years at Keyboard. You know,
Journalism.
No, journalistic.
Okay.
Yep, I'm all in there.
Sure.
I had a little bit of, I fell into this. You know, I'm a musician. I had no concept of what it was like to, work on a publication. But I read Guitar Player. I'm a guitarist, and so I read Guitar Player.
You're an educated guitarist.
Yeah, and I wasn't educated. Actually, yep, I did go to school. But, to wind up on the staff of a magazine that I devoured just to try to educate myself, there were some mysteries in my life, as there are with anybody. I'm not trying to make a distinction there, but there are things that I cannot possibly explain. How is it that a kid who loves guitar at 12 years old and starts to play and wants to be, in the Rolling Stones or whatever, winds up meeting B.B. King?
Yeah, right.
Having Joe Pass,
right?
Talking with B.B. King just privately,
that's pretty cool.
Just
I
the two of us,
suppose.
just the two of us.
I did not even think about that, like, because when we I was thinking about what to talk about, and I'm a big fan of magazines. That's why I got into photography. But like that thought of going, like, I didn't realize that I knew you played, but I didn't even think about, like, okay, you got to interview all of your heroes.
No,
that's incredible.
And sometimes in places that you wouldn't believe, like Ry Cooder's private music space. Yeah. I've been in Ry Cooder's private music space.
I'm gonna have to plead ignorance. I do not know who that is. I mean,
not only do you have to plead ignorance, but you need to plead. I promise you. You have to promise them. Promise them out there. Promise.
Well, let me hear what the promise is first.
No, okay, yeah.
It's gonna be a good promise.
No,
check out
the
who
promise
Ry
is
Cooder is
that I will listen to 3 Ry Cooder tracks. You just pull them up, and then also go to what's the movie from Cuba that he did? Buena Vista Social Club.
It'll blow your mind.
Yeah. So then you'll understand who Ry Cooder is. But it's and I'm not meaning that dismissively.
No,
you don't know who Ry. There are a lot of musicians who I don't have a clue who they are until people tell me. So it's not like I know everybody. But Ry Cooder, for a guitar player, he's a slide master. And but to fly back in the day when they had the budgets, to fly into Los Angeles from San Francisco and interview Slash and just sit. Just sit. The two of us.
So incredibly cool.
There's no publicists. There's no managers. There's no.
It's like the stripped down.
We're just hanging.
Doing this.
So, what year did you start working for Guitar Player? If you don't mind me asking.
No, I don't.
Just so I can,
look, I'm 66. Okay, I'm coming off. I'll take my shirt off. No, I'm just kidding.
I want an idea of like when you jumped into
1991 at Guitar Player. So
starting right at the beginning of the 90s.
So yes,
yeah.
Like one of the best eras of guitar
music
ever.
No, it's true. It's true. And it dawned on me after a number of years of going, I'd be in a hotel room with Eric Johnson playing guitar for me because I was supposed to do an interview to bring this back, and or Sonny Landreth, a great slide player from Louisiana, or Derek Trucks, or Mark Knopfler, or Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath, or Carlos.
You met them all. Is there a famous guitar player you've not met? Like,
yes.
Is there one that is
there's
still
probably
there are
is
two.
There one,
there are
two that are on your list that you've never talked to.
That I've never talked to, because we do, at a magazine you parse things out.
Sure.
And it has to do with pragmatic things like workload. Oh, you're working on this, so I'll be the guy to go to interview Jeff Beck.
Sure.
On that level.
I had to shout out to a buddy of mine. I had to find a sub for a gig today, and he came through and was like,
"We can do this. We have to survive as players.
Yeah, you have to,
because you take for those of us out in the world who are striving to be players and professionals. I really want to talk to the teenagers who are just getting their toes in the water. Here's the thing. If you hope to have a gig that's on a professional level and sustains your world, your survival world for 10 or 15 years, if you're lucky, never, ever be the person who breaks the contract.
right.
Don't be the person who says, oh, no, I'm like tonight. Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, and then not show up.
And then not show up.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, you have to make it right. You have to fix.
You have to make it
you have
right.
to say, okay, I can't do this, but this guy is as good as me or better. Like he will get the job done. But in the interview world, like, it's a different person. That's a little bit different of a thing. But I mean,
well, in the interview world, we would have, the way it works is you have, a plan. Okay, for this issue, we're going to do so-and-so. You take this, you take that, And then it's all worked out through publicists. And, if I flew into a city to talk to Brian Setzer in New York, there would be... This is all lined up.
So crazy. Golly.
It's awesome, man.
No, but it is crazy.
So when you talk,
Adam, it's crazy.
When you talk to them, when you
it's crazy.
Did you change up your approach of how you interviewed someone, or did you kind of have a same kind of a vibe towards your, like, if you were writing an article, did you go, we're going to talk about the roots of like technique, or we're going to talk about your influences, or did you cover it all, or did you have a theme to every interview? What interested you more when you interviewed someone?
What most interested me, especially when I first started this job and I had to prove myself, what most interested me was bringing the fresh fish back to the market. In other words, I was out spearfishing and I had to bring in the big flopping fish and go, so that I could prove that I could do this again. Because if you bring back a little bit of, mackerel as opposed to the tuna that they're expecting, you never get assigned that again. And it's a gift if someone says, we're doing a cover story with Slash, and I say, yeah, man, I go, and they put the money down for the hotel, they put the money down for the flight. Not anymore, by the way, to all you guys out here who are
in the golden days.
We're talking past tense, y'all.
Yeah,
Back before the internet killed everything.
and so I don't want to
came about.
There are some things that apply still to this gig, but the flying to go to New York for Brian Setzer does not apply anymore.
Right,
sadly,
they find somebody and
yeah, and off. Usually, it's actually on the telephone anymore. Yeah, but back in the day, it was like, okay, yeah, I'll do Slash in Los Angeles, well, Hollywood, or go to New York for Brian Setzer. Which story do you want to hear first?
Slash. Which story do I want to hear first?
Slash or Brian Setzer?
Brian Setzer.
Okay.
Let's go alphabetical.
All right. So Brian, this is how cool he is. He's really cool. So So Brian is going to be
We
on.
know.
Brian is going to be on. It's not Leno's show. God, it was so long ago. It was. I don't even own a TV, so I'm really weak on this. But it was a really popular late night TV show in the late '90s.
Arsenio.
No, it wasn't. Okay, oh, that was '80s, I think.
That
You
was
know,
it, wasn't it?
yeah, you're just jerking my chain here, but oh, he gets up and dances, and we'll think of him when I tell the
Sure.
story.
Conan?
So, yeah,
Conan O'Brien?
That would make sense.
that was
yeah.
Conan O'Brien. He had a little spiky hair, and it was
That's
you know,
him.
That's him.
Yeah, good
it was
guy.
Conan
And a
O'Brien.
guitar nerd.
And
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, he is the
Big
buff.
guitar
Okay,
nerd. He's
all
a
right.
big guitar nerd.
So, this was the Conan O'Brien show. So Setzer is going to be on, and you could probably look it up on YouTube and get the footage of this show. But
Not on this podcast.
But that day, here's what Brian's day looked like. Guitar Player Magazine interview at, I'm making this up, but 3 p.m. But a photo shoot at 2:00, and then show up at the Conan, and I think it was NBC, and it was the Black Rock, or is that CB? I don't know.
30 Rock.
So it was right down in NYC.
Black Rock.
So it was, and then show up. So I saw his schedule. His publicist, was guiding him through all this. So here's how cool Brian is. I show up, fly in. Oh man, I love his playing, but I have to put on a good face. This is part of what you're asking, is how do I approach this? By the way, not only was it a cover story, but it was a lesson, which meant that I not only interviewed him, but I also would ask him things about guitar and playing, and then later transcribe it into a musical, some pages of musical
Tab in the back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
If
notating
you're
it.
a guitar
notating
player,
everything.
you know exactly
If
what
you've
we're
looked at
talking
any
about.
of the magazines, that I swear, like it's absolutely.
I know.
mind-blowing
It
to
is
me.
bizarre, like the how many of those magazines I've bought and looked at, and
But the tab that I was producing was unique in the sense that it wasn't somebody's song. It was, I would ask Brian, this is the nut right here. I would have to study up on Brian's playing well enough to be able to say, they're promoting a new album, so I would definitely sort of orbit around songs on the new
relevant.
record.
Yeah, sure.
Not something that he did 7 years ago.
Yeah. Hey, when Stray Cats
Yeah, exactly. This is what you do
Yeah.
not want to do. What you want to do
remain.
is be
You
relevant.
remember that time?
artists
when-
artists want to remain. So that's part of the question is talking about relevance with the artist.
Yes, because my number one goal is to have the artist I'm interviewing fired up and enthused.
Yeah.
If I ask the same questions, which you were alluding to earlier, Adam, before we went on air, the sort of standard questions that if an artist comes into, if Brian Setzer was flying into XYZ town, in Ohio, then generally the local newspaper would, say, so when the Stray Cat strut was
Standard questions.
Standard questions. Okay, right away you take a big scraper. Ever lived in the Northeast in a cold winter where you have to take scraping?
No, I have
Nope,
not.
nope,
Never will.
Nope, I probably
Where the
won't.
ice,
Never will.
the ice is on
If
your
everything
windshield.
keeps melting up there and it gets warmer, I might.
Maybe,
but not
yeah.
now.
Not
Not
All right.
now.
So here's what you do: you pour hot water over the windshield and then
Mhm.
scrape the ice off. I have to do that to
Yeah.
all the standard questions. Nuke it just.
Well, I would imagine, I've had to interview people before, and this is the same thing. Like when you ask a good question that gets them excited to talk about something, that it makes the job easy.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is they can't go to their standard list because the artists that guitar magazines interview, by and large, are pretty happening artists. They're not sort of emerging. They're pretty happening.
Yeah.
So
they've done the work already.
They've done the work, and also they're out there to promote.
Still
So this
doing
is
the
a
work.
job, and
Yeah.
this is, they love to play, obviously, or they wouldn't be doing it. But there's a huge group of publicists. There's a manager. There's booking agents. There's the road crew. There's the band. There's this, I don't know, 30 or 40 people, some of whom have more importance than others, but behind that person. So when I'm interviewing Brian, he is full tilt boogie on having to, there's this wave pushing him. But let's get back to Brian.
Full tilt
because
boogie, band name.
here's the thing,
good
before
one.
I forget, because it's been a long day. I did work already today. So, but here's the Brian thing. Man, he's so fucking cool. So the first stop, when I get the ride from wherever I'm staying, in NYC to at 2:00, show up to the photography studio. That's where I'm going to hook up with Brian and the publicist, and ultimately get to Conan. So Brian's doing a photo shoot, which is for the cover of Guitar Player. So that's why me being on staff at Guitar Player, I'm there. I'm allowed to participate. So there's a female publicist. Bear with me on this, because the gender thing is kind of important to show how cool Brian is. Female publicist, there's me, there's a couple of, Brian's wife, and a couple of other female folk in the room, maybe assistants to the photographer and the photographer. And so there's not a lot of cover. There's not a lot of place where Brian can go and change his clothes. It's a cover shoot. He's coming in off the street, out of a taxi. He's not wearing.
He's not ready yet.
He
hasn't truly arrived.
He doesn't look like Brian Setzer on the cover of Guitar Magazine.
No.
Not like Billy Gibbons just walking the streets of Nashville looking like he's ready to be on stage.
Exactly. And in fact, some of the females were hairdresser and makeup.
Sure.
So there's this crew of people, most of whom...
There's no way that hair can be like that without a crew behind it. He's got great hair. Go for it.
And this was in at the boogie time, where he had the great breakthrough.
That resurgence.
Yeah, great breakthrough album.
Like him and Cherry Poppin' Daddies and Big Bad Voodoo Daddies and all those swing
it was
bands.
his big band.
Yeah.
It was his
He
all
killed
of
it.
them.
Yeah, he crushed it. Yeah.
Yep.
Them doing all the Louis Prima shit.
Yep. So, and a great movie that was. We won't get distracted, but so here's Brian. He's riding this wave of the dirty boogie is just exploding, and he's got radio play back in the day when there was radio. Never mind. So here's
Look it up, kids.
He was what they used to call hot.
He
Yeah,
was
yeah,
he
he
was
hit it.
smoking hot.
Jump Jiving Whale, man.
Yeah.
He was jump jiving. This
Yeah.
was jump jiving well, exactly. He played that
Yeah.
that night on Conan,
Mhm.
But we'll get there in just a second. But just to
Sorry,
sort of no, jumping forward, we're time travelers. Hello,
Backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
time travelers. But anyway, so I'd never met Brian, but here he is standing in his underwear as he's changing his clothes, as all the people around him who are trying to be respectful and discreet, but there's no place to, he doesn't have a dressing room. He just has to strip down. He's in his undies. He's not stark.
What kind of
But he's in
photo
this-
studio didn't have a bathroom?
Everything is on the clock.
Right.
And he just did it. He
Right,
just did it.
Yeah.
He just did it.
Just to go.
Everybody was cool. But here's one of the things that I've learned out of these years of doing this is that we think of rock guitarists and rock stars and stuff as people with privilege, and no, they actually work really hard. Maybe if you're the Rolling Stones and you have privilege at this point. But with Setzer, man, even though he was writing Jump, Jive, and Wail, he had a 17-piece band to pay.
Yeah, still does.
Yep, and he's getting the job done. Guitar Player Magazine's here to interview me. I'm going on Conan tonight.
Hustling.
I've got to get dressed for the photo shoot. He's a model at that point. He's got his Gretsch. He's posing, doing different things. Whoosh, and that goes, and then we roll off to the next event, which is the Conan O'Brien backstage place, where management comes to me and says Brian needs to take a nap.
Understandably, yeah.
No shit. But they say, okay, so we'll do the interview I'm making this number up, but at 5, because they shoot it before, and then I don't think it was live TV. I think it was shot live and then broadcast.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just picking a number. I'm just at 5. We're going to do the interview. So I've seen Brian in his underwear. I've seen the photo shoot. I've seen the hustle. Everybody's pushing him forward toward this next time thing, which is to arrive at the studio, at the TV studios, get situated, get his green room squared away. The green room, for people who might not know, is where the artist, that just is, slang in our world for exclusively artist place. Fans don't go into the green room, right? Green room is
unless you're
sometimes
that band, unless you're the bands that like the green room's it. Like I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
I've seen some stuff go down in a green room. I think regardless, it's a private space. It's a private space, and regardless of whether you like that privacy to take just a nap by yourself or to have 8 of your either friends or newly found associates in there with you, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think but it's like a private place.
It's a private place.
It sounds like it's the first private place he had all day.
Yeah. So while he took a nap, I hung out with his wife, which was really fun. And then it was time to do the interview. So I had prepared. This is just an example of what it's like when you do a cover story, but also a lesson. So I'd had, my questions prepared about certain songs and chord voicings and how you do this or that, or, who inspired you to play. So after his nap, we meet in the green room. And it's counting down time, He's going to be on national TV in...
Oh, he hasn't gone on yet.
He took a nap.
Gotcha, okay.
Came in to do this guitar player thing.
Yeah.
He brought his guitar. I have audio of Brian playing for me to illustrate when I ask him something,
cool.
Chord voicing, and and he was so open. So not only was he available in his underwear just to be, okay, this is what I have to do to change in front of everybody, and then I'm going to get photographed. Of course, nobody took pictures of him in his underwear.
Yeah.
It was just, but it's still a concept.
Yeah.
He wasn't so big in his head that he had to say, banish you all. He just got the job done.
Yeah.
That's how cool he is. Then he took a nap because he had to. Because who knows? He might have just rolled in from Boston. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm learning too that I don't know. I spent a lot of time at the beginning of this year not giving myself that rest that I needed. I'm not saying just like breaks from it, but actual is just sleep. Like actual like turning it off. Not like going and watching TV or going. It's like turning it off. Like just literally, and that's usually best
Flip
done
the
by
switch.
sleeping. It's usually best, and I've started recently trying to keep up with my habits of like the sleep thing because I see that like so many incredible people that do incredible things that can sustain that kind of thing take the time to get that rest. That's probably not like the first time where he's been like, oh, I got to take a nap.
No. He built it into his schedule.
And even if that means like your little bit of time to just like chill out.
No, he pulled his energy in.
That's huge. Yeah.
He pulled his energy in because he's going to be on nationwide TV in front of millions of people on the Conan O'Brien show.
Yeah.
At the height of his career.
At the height of his
when
career.
You got to play it ice cold. You got
gotta
to
take a nap.
You got to take a nap.
Take a
yeah,
nap.
ain't no shame.
I would take a nap.
Not at all.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it was 40 minutes. I wasn't keeping
A little power nap.
I wasn't,
Little
you know,
cat
it
nap.
wasn't 2 hours. No, it was 40
Regardless.
minutes at the outside.
Regardless, you turn off.
Yeah.
You know.
And so then he comes back, he's got his Gretsch, we're doing the lesson, and I'm asking him, you know, pretty technical stuff about, you know, certain chord progressions in certain songs and who his teachers were and technical stuff and gear, you know, all the gear stuff.
Guitar players love to talk about that stuff.
Oh, they do to a detriment to their playing. But
when they become passionate about it, that talking about gear
Passion's
never gets
good.
old to them. They love talking about
Love
their
some
gear. Yeah.
I love some stuff.
Yeah.
and so my job, again, Adam, you sort of asked about what is it like to fine tune your interview to a particular person. So what my job would entail ahead of time is listening to the album inside out, reading any prior interviews that I could find, and this is back just in the nascent part of the internet, so things weren't exactly nailed down as available as they were. You know, I'd have to find a paper copy of.
You actually
of
had to
these
do
things.
research.
I had to do research,
Field research.
and joyfully, you know, like
of course, yeah.
but you only have about 10 days to do the research, because if you put out a print magazine, it's 4 weeks generally. Sometimes you get lucky and there's 5 weeks, but it's 4 weeks. So a story is already planned 2 or 3 issues ahead of that. And the plane tickets are booked. You don't just go, oh, let's do Brian Setzer. Can you fly out and you come back and turn in this? No, this has
sure,
to be.
I got open time right here.
Yeah,
Come on out.
This is all, and of course they have to say yes, and it requires 3 or 4 weeks of planning. Then you fly
Just
in.
3-4 weeks of planning.
Yeah.
Like, or ahead of time. 3 or 4 weeks at least or ahead of time.
Ahead of time.
I got you. I got you.
To get, you know, who's going to be where
get
when
a
you can
yes.
land
Yeah,
in, and coordinated with a cover or you know whatever
Logistics,
logistics, also with the publication schedule and stuff. So I would have a little time to prepare, not months,
Sure.
but enough time to the publicist gives you the new record. Sometimes it's not even been released yet, you know. So you're doing the interview before the record's out, so that
How cool was that in getting to hear
Before you heard stuff, before it was like out.
getting to listening to some records before they're even out yet, and having like being able to have like a true first impression.
How
and then
cool
get to-
was that?
and
You
then-
know how
and
cool
then get
that
to talk
was.
to the artist.
You know
about it.
exactly how cool that was. That's the coolest thing, man.
What was does any record jump to mind like
That what you got?
like
Oh.
yeah exactly.
Yeah,
A
that
lot of
moment of like,
Did you hear?
shit.
Did you hear Nevermind before it was released and be like, these guys are gonna fucking blow?
I did not.
You know
but,
what I mean?
Yeah, I do know exactly what you mean, and I didn't with that album, but you know, so I'll let me finish Brian, and then I'll talk about
We're just
Slash,
too
and then,
excited.
yeah, and so Brian does the lesson with me, you know. So we're talking technical stuff, and you know, so he has this particular tape echo thing on top of these 2 Fender Bandmaster, you know, tilt back blonde 1962 amps, you know, whatever, because that's what we do.
Sexy.
That's what we do in a guitar magazine is talk that kind of
Yeah,
porn.
get
It's
oh,
guitar
yeah,
porn.
no, it's
guitar
totally.
porn.
If-
And he was
if
down
my
with that.
wife is watching, she's like, I don't get it, but Matt is
Whatever.
loving every word that is coming out of Andy's mouth right now. Like, she knows, and I get it's cool. I get it.
So
So
but he was so game for that too. He was
That's-
game
yeah,
for
'cause he's a
standing in his
geek.
underwear while he was, you know, posing for cover, and then he was game to sit down and play. And also, total props to Brian for calling out his original guitar teacher who set him on the path. And he called the guitar teacher out by name, and I made sure I got the spelling and looked it up afterward. I mean, so this was, and this guitar teacher, whose name I can't recall at the moment, but, was working with Brian when Brian was 15, 16, 17. And Brian's a star at this point. He doesn't have to say, oh, yeah, Mr. QWERTY,
Sure.
He just talked about him because it was important.
Yep.
And this goes back to Adam's question about how do you pull unfiltered answers out of people, is to lob these kinds of things. I mean, the Philadelphia Inquirer would not ask him, so who's your first teacher and how did he fire you up?
Is that what you just
Sure.
said? Tell me about your first teacher.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I heard the opening, and being a guitarist myself, I could, work my way in.
Yeah.
Maybe I had that as an idea, but he just went off about his teacher, and then the follow-up question. This is the thing that's important for any of you would-be journalists. It's the second question. It's not the first one. The first one might be, so do you have a teacher who inspired you? How did she inspire you?
Right.
How did he inspire you? It's the second question. It's not like, oh, yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so how old were you when... Yeah. Okay, you lost the question. You lost that moment.
Well, it's like you're trying to light fire.
Yeah,
on a light.
yeah.
You're trying to get it going.
Yeah.
And you
Little
see the
kindling.
spark, little kindling, and you get it going, and then you just go, okay, cool, it's gonna do its thing. No, you blow on it.
You blow on
you
it.
Nurture. You throw.
You
a
might
little more
throw
fuel.
some,
throw
denatured alcohol on there.
You're not
I don't know.
making a big bonfire with
So
this
tell me
kindling.
more about the divorce. Like, how they just putting my. It's like you want that car is there. Yeah, just those kinds of things. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
Great, yeah.
Man, that's like 6 or 7 analogies already
That was a lot.
tonight. This is great. This is my kind of night.
So just to finish, I'm sorry, but I just want
Don't be sorry.
one more Brian. How cool this guy is.
He's cool as shit. Talk
So-
all
so
night.
he-
If
so-
this turns into just the Brian Setzer
What's
via
up, Brian
Andy Ellis,
Setzer?
yeah, dude.
I'll send
Come
it
on
to
down
you.
anytime.
Hit him up on
Anytime.
Twitter.
Yeah.
So here's Brian being cool. Now he's showing me he's playing for me. I have a private. I'm in the green room.
Yeah.
I don't know where he took a nap. Wasn't in the green room, or maybe it was, and I was invited into the green. Anyway, here I am in the green room now with Brian, and he's got his guitar out. He's unplugged, and I'm asking him anything that I can think of, and he goes, "Oh, well, that's this." So I'm getting essentially
asking
a
him,
private lesson from Brian Setzer. By the way, the time is ticking. He's going to be on stage on Conan in minutes in front of millions. But that's not where his head is at.
He's right there.
He's right there. He's remembering his guitar teacher.
Oh, it's so cool.
He's telling me why his guitar teacher was cool and what it was he learned from his guitar. He's not thinking of the TV. He's not sitting there going,
Yeah, getting ready.
"Oh no, maybe it should be
Half there and half, yeah.
maybe it should be how should no." He's talking about his history, and then I remember this distinctly. Door, bam, bam, bam. Door opens. Manager or runner or somebody goes, 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yep. And Brian goes, not ready yet.
Excuse me,
And-
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
And then the same thing, and it's like time now, and
5
Brian
minutes.
goes, the first one he goes, okay, we're yeah, I got it. We're wrapping up. And I go, oh, I got it. We're wrapping up. Because the last thing I want to do is be the guy who messes up
Sure.
Brian's
flow.
state of mind.
Yeah.
So, okay, it's time for me to leave. But no, Brian is still, he wants to
No, let me finish.
he wants
it,
to
yeah.
finish. And then the second, and it's whatever the countdown is,
10 minutes.
even less than that. It's like time,
Right.
6
So
minutes,
so
38
so I'm
seconds.
going, thank you for all this. I didn't even want to push it this far. And he goes, cool. And I scoot out and actually get a chance to sit in the audience. So enough minutes, maybe it was 10 minutes, that, whatever the final curtain call was or stage call, he had to get out there, tune, and, and I'm sitting there. The Conan stage set is actually, or was actually, really pretty small. I mean, it's maybe like 200
like
seats.
The Jay Leno one, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the capacity.
I've
super
been to.
Small.
I went to David Letterman one time when I was in high school, probably, and I remember thinking the same thing. Like, oh, this is way smaller than that.
It's
like
always
Paul's
packed.
like right next to him.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
it's
always
smaller.
packed.
It's smaller than the Mercy Lounge.
Well, it looks
you know?
big. It looks big on
That's
one
the
of
wide
reasons
angle
why-
lenses
yeah,
that they use.
yeah.
So
It's all tricks. It's cinema tricks. You
it's
see,
cinema tricks. So then he comes out. So he was so cool on all of these different stages, taking time with me, not just giving me the. Okay, these are the answers
Get
that
outta
I've
here, kid,
already
you bother
figured.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And this is what here's I'm promoting my album, and these are the stock question answer. Fuck. No, he really got into it. He played his guitar. When it was the final last moments, okay, and I'm already going, thank you, because I'm not going to. I don't want Brian to have to be the one to close it out, before he goes on stage. So I'm sitting there in that little tiny theater, 200 seats maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
And Shazam, he comes out and plays with his big band, and it's just unreal. So all day long, he's been giving it up. He's been giving it up in his underwear. That's the one right there.
That's it. Hold on, I'm gonna flip it over here. So.
Yeah. You can read. I don't know if that was back in the day before the web was really established, so I don't know if you can read that interview online and the lesson and stuff. But
Oh, that's weird that it took me there.
Yeah,
That's just
I
his
know.
little- He doesn't look like that anymore, by the way.
he didn't.
He looks more like that. Yeah, he didn't
Yeah.
look like the last one.
Yeah, but he was just he was just
Sure. There he is.
Actually, that album, that's a different cover. We did his instrumental cover. That album right there is
Yeah.
probably from the 2000 aughts.
Yeah, I was gonna say
There's a jump, jive, and wail. There's a
that
jump,
one
jive,
right
and
there.
wail.
Which one?
The blue one.
The blue with this one?
No, the third one, right there.
King of Swing? Is that it?
Try the next one.
No, that's old. That's old. Look at them there. That's old school.
All right, I don't know. So maybe the blue one. It's not instrumental, but anyway, that doesn't diminish how cool the guy is. Whatever we may not be able to find.
Come on, man. This guy, he's the king of cool, man. That guy, man. I remember one of the first places I actually got to play in L.A. was actually at the Cat Club. Was it Cat Club? Isn't that what it was? The place where the Stray Cats.
I have no idea.
It was the drummer from the
He's
Stray
just
Cats.
rambling, right?
I am a little bit, just a little bit. No, the drummer from the Stray Cats. He had a place out there in L.A. called. I think it was the Cat Club or something like that.
That sounds like it.
That
that's
sounds like it
reasonable.
could be right.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
So what was?
I
an
think it's
album-
the blue one. I
Yeah,
think it's the
that
blue
would
one.
Make sense.
I think it's the blue one.
So what was an album that you? Is there a significant record that you got like a sneak peek to that you were reviewing before it was released, and then you get to
There's some.
and you listen to it and you're like, oh man, this is gonna be a big record.
It's. I never know what's going to be a big record.
Sure.
I love what I love, and I have my personal. This is also important, Adam, too, that a journalist cannot. A journalist can be passionate and enthusiastic about music, but cannot, in my opinion, traditional classic journalist creed is that you cannot let your personal opinions infiltrate past a certain point into your writing. I have fallen in love with every person I've interviewed. That was my mantra. I actually came up with this in my mind. When I'm going to interview you and I get the new album, I'm in love with you and your new album, even if later, after I was done with the job, I just go, God, I'll never want to hear that thing again.
Right.
But I have to be in love with the person, and I mean it in the best way.
You're kind of working together.
You play this music. You've done this thing that I so understand what it's like to also be on that journey. My journey isn't the same as yours, but in a way it is. You know, if you play music, if you play guitar, we're all on the same journey.
Well, at least I think at the same time. Okay, so the purpose of what you're doing in that interview, to where it's going and where it's going to be published, is the idea is to create enthusiasm or to break down walls or hurdles that guitar players, or to just maybe turn someone onto something they've never been into before.
Yeah.
So in a way, I could see how you're saying, to where you both, if the artist is like, oh, this is a waste of my time, yeah, I'm just doing this, and they're not getting the... Brian Setzer obviously knew what his interview was going to lead to, what it was going to go to, and he gets that, and he understands, because he had that connection, like you were saying early on with the teacher. But I think if you're both, you both have to work together to get the best story to the kids, or to the adults, or to whoever the kid,
to the audience. We call it the audience.
Let's call them that.
That's call it the audience.
That's the end game. So if you both can complement it and you both can work together on it, but so like you said, just because, and why are you to say this music isn't going to change somebody's life, or this interview, this article won't change someone's life, even if you're not into it? That's huge.
My job as a journalist, when I sit down with someone, whether or not I actually would put my own money out for their music, but when I come in to play, I mean, it is playing. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean play like you play someone. I mean like when I come in to do the gig with them, my job is to take what they have to say and move it into a venue where other people can hear it to the highest degree. You know, if I do my job to the best of my ability, their voice is translated to anyone who wants to listen.
Yeah.
It's not me. This is why I would never call myself a music critic. I hate that term. There are a lot of people who are music critics, and please do not think that I am...
He hates the name of your job.
I'm not a
he
fan.
He doesn't hate you. He just hates
I'm
the
not
name
a
of your
fan
job.
of critics in general. Movie critics, food critics,
subjective,
music critic,
material critics.
Well, and I've read critiques of albums and things like that are good, but when people are just like the vicious mean ones, the people that are like, this is just garbage and that kind of shit, those people are just...
It's good to have a taste. Yeah. It's good to have a taste established, but you don't have to be a dick about it. You don't got to say that someone's like, oh, you like a Taylor guitar? Shit, I like Martin's. Yours sucks because it says Taylor.
Yeah.
Why? You know why? Because it said that's... I've started calling people out. I have for a minute, to where if they go like, oh, I hate country music. Shit, man. There's some Garth Brooks songs I know you love. I don't care what kind of music you listen to. There's something in... Same thing with any...
Or Merle.
God, yeah, Johnny Cash. You're going to sit here and tell me you don't like Johnny Cash. It's one of those things where... Why do you say those kinds of things?
Well, when I think about the snarky critic,
but that's where those people come from.
The reason that those people do that is because that's what people like to like a lot. It's just like
they like to stir shit up.
They like to.
I hate country music.
The same people that like.
I hate this guitar. I hate this player. I hate
Or the same people.
All those people talking shit about you, Adam. I'm like, y'all, why are you talking shit? You don't even know the guy.
Cool.
You don't even know the guy.
I mean, he's
don't
all
even
right.
know the guy. No, Justin Timberlake. Justified.
But no, I was gonna say is that like
that's my beer. Don't
that,
start
like meanly critique
just
things.
to tear them down. Trolls. Tear them down.
They're trolls.
Yeah.
And people like trolls, and like that's what I'm saying.
I do.
It's weird. It's so weird that
feed them to the lions, man. They like to see just people at their weak in their moments of suffering.
I do have to say one thing for guitar magazines in general. Even though I belong to Premier Guitar, I'm on staff now with Premier, and what a great gig that is. But had so many years at Guitar Player, in fantastic years of its history. But I've also known people who are on staff at Downbeat or other, Guitar World, other music magazines, by and large, the staff editors, not the freelancers, but also the freelancers could be included in this. By and large, everybody plays.
Yeah.
And so how in the world, if you're a player, could you listen to somebody and go, oh, that sucks? I mean, yeah, if it's out of tune and someone's completely hopeless and they need to go back and woodshed a little more, then you go, it's okay.
I don't know. Work for the
But-
Shags.
The Shags are psychedelic. They just didn't even know
Nope,
how
no,
psychedelic.
they still don't know. I don't think the world is not ready. Is still
Well,
not ready for that.
You just sprang that out to see if I even knew who the
I knew
Shags
you.
were.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't because I totally come on. I would have had you had that moment where you've been like, who are the Shags? I would have just like walked it like, all right, cool.
Okay, I'm
Never
done.
mind, we're
I'm done.
All right,
we're
cool.
done.
I thought this guy was for real over
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
No,
No,
the great. Their first garage band ever.
Yeah,
The original garage band.
yeah.
Horrible
I
music.
keep
Best good, horrible. Good kind of horrible. Trust me.
I keep like thinking or romanticizing like what your career's been, interviewing guitar players and writing rock and roll. I mean, you're essentially a rock and roll journalist.
I am a rock and
You're a
roll
rock and roll
journalist
journalist.
with the guitar lens.
And like I keep thinking of like, man, I wonder, are there any stories of like you go and you meet like so and so.
How about Slash?
You go, all right, yeah, Slash for example.
You want to hear that story?
But I want to tell you the story that I want to hear and see if you have anything like that.
this.
Like, so you go and meet someone like Slash or some guitar just in the some just big wild supposedly party, and everything's going good, and then all of a sudden the guy just goes, "Hey, you want to go to Vegas?" And you like roll deep with him for like a night or something. Like you just like
never
like
did that.
over the top. Like he's like, I'll show you what rock and roll is like.
No. I never took my pants down with anyone that I interviewed.
That's awesome. I
You
love
know,
it.
I always went in because because always for this type of thing I'm on salary.
Yeah.
So it's
Hunter S. Thompson.
well, I know.
You better get the story. Yeah,
no, but I don't think.
think.
No, actually, Hunter was not on salary.
You're right. He wasn't. You're right. He wasn't.
He's a
was
freelancer.
freelancer. You're right. I take it back.
When you're on salary,
take it back.
you represent the entity that pays you.
Sure.
And they gave me carte blanche to get all the truth from these guitarists and flew me out and paid hotel and food and stuff like that. But the last thing I would do is like blow my assignment.
Yeah.
Sure.
I sort of felt like the SEALs and the Marines are going to hate me for saying this, but I sort of felt like a Navy SEAL dropping into a zone when I would fly in to do a job. I had to really make sure that I had my recording equipment, the batteries and the spares,
Yeah.
and I had to have I had to do my plotting of I had to have questions that I didn't have to adhere to, but I had to have contingency programs, really know the subject matter really well. It's like dropping in on a target. You do your homework, or otherwise you're going to fail the mission.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
it will show. You said it'll show.
It'll show. And I just would not allow myself to fail the mission. So I would drop in there and do the stories, but it was always understood that when I left my journalism, I took that with I've never partied. I've partied with yes, I've partied with rock musicians, but not people who not
At the
people
time you were interviewing.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
The business is not mixed with partying
I feel you.
for me at all. Or at least, it might be for some people.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong.
Don't get me wrong. I have partied with rock stars.
I rock stars.
Just not the ones I was interviewing.
I didn't say rock stars. I said rock musicians because some of, no, I haven't partied with rock stars, but rock musicians and hardcore bikers. And, just...
Where did you grow up? What part of the country are you from?
I'm not.
Yeah, he's not. That's okay.
I'm not. I left this country at 9 months old and went to live in Beirut, Lebanon
No shit.
Wow.
and then came back for a couple of years, nursery school, kindergarten, first grade, and then went back to Beirut again, second, third, and fourth grades, and then Paris, France, fifth, and sixth grades.
Are you a military kid?
Journalist kid, but the same schedule, the same
Wow.
3 years of rotating, exactly the same. So all my classmates in the American schools in these different countries, and then it was Germany after France. So,
So your dad was a journalist?
yeah.
And I guess he was. Why was he in Beirut? Just covering.
No, he was the bureau chief for the Christian Science Monitor, which at the time in the 50s and 60s and 70s, when I was his kid, was an established. It sounds like a religious paper, but it wasn't. But it was an established newspaper right along with the New York Times, Herald Tribune, Baltimore Sun, Chicago Tribune. My dad, you can look this up on YouTube, was the Reagan-Carter debate. He was one of the journalists, the three journalists in the Reagan-Carter debate on TV when they did that.
Really?
Yeah. So that's...
I guess that's a moderator.
No, they had that. Barbara Walters was the moderator, and there were three other journalists with her, so there were four journalists. Yeah, so
he would ask questions.
Questions to each of them.
Carter Reagan debate.
Mm-hmm. 1980.
So that's the heat of the Iran Contra. Like that's when all that was going on, right? Because that's a lot of why. I mean, am I correct? Like when, like the day after Reagan took office, the Iran Contra was over. Yeah. And everyone thought it was him, but it had to do with all the stuff that Carter had been doing before that, but he couldn't talk about it, right?
No, I think Carter came in after Reagan.
What, as a president? No. Carter was president before Reagan was.
Yeah.
I am wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I love to be wrong.
No, it was
right.
Carter,
no
Reagan,
shame, no
Bush,
problem
Clinton.
being wrong. Yeah, Carter.
Actually, I hate to be wrong, but
I know.
But yeah. So the Carter Reagan debates. Yeah. So I know that Carter.
Wow, that was a crazy.
What was your dad's name?
Harry B. Ellis. So all you have to do is call up that Carter Reagan debate from like 80
on YouTube's
82
It'd be
80.
80,
Oh, Adam knows his presidential shit.
84. It would be 1980. The debates, either 79 or 80. It was for the election. No, it would be 80.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that I do pay attention to a lot about, and I try to never talk about it, but I do pay attention to it a lot.
Well, as you should.
But I also I love old documentaries, and like I've seen stuff about I watched a documentary about the Iran Contra and just knew or the hostage crisis.
Yeah.
Which is crazy story, man. So
I know. My dad's there.
Look at
Okay,
that.
hold on, I'm gonna switch it over here in a second.
That's cool.
I think I can do this. Oh well.
So he was an editor for a newspaper in Lebanon. Short answer.
Well, it was an American newspaper.
Right.
The Christian Science Monitor, but he was the bureau chief, and this was back in the day when newspapers would plant.
So are these the? Okay, hold on.
This is back when newspapers would what?
It's not him, is it?
No, those don't look like familiar faces. I'm not sure if you have the right. We have to find the one with Barbara
1980
Walters.
Presidential debate.
There's multiple debates. Make sure it's the one with Barbara
Are you
Walters.
kidding me? Man.
I'm just saying that's the
Yeah.
We're doing your research, man.
I mean, this is
your YouTube journalism. Doing your research, getting to the
You
heart
had
of
to-
the story.
And you tell me you had to work harder than this to get info back in the day? This is ridiculous. Are you kidding me? Everybody would have
I had
quit.
to use the
No,
phone
but
call.
My
here's-
generation is.
Here's what I used to have to do if I was editing a story at the
So
Guitar
torture.
magazine.
Uh-huh.
We had print books that were the size of this many inch 4-inch 3-inch 4-inch books that would list all the jazz albums that have ever been recorded up to that date and all the rock albums that have ever been recorded up to that day. I mean,
Wow.
it's insane, because if I needed to find out, did
Who played
Miles
guitar?
Davis
Yeah,
with
yeah,
John
yeah.
McLaughlin,
Yeah.
did he? Was that
Yeah,
68, or was it
69.
69?
Yeah.
It used to be in print, and so I'd have this
Jeez.
volumes of stuff on a bookshelf in my office, and I'd have to go stop editing, go over and research, because we didn't have fact checkers.
Sure.
We were the fact checkers as well. Oh yeah, okay. Kind of Blue was here, but then Bitches Brew with Miles with John McLaughlin. Okay. Oh yeah, that's this. Okay, that's good. And then I'd move on. You go back and you leaf through pages. There's something nice about it in that it requires some effort on your part, and if you put effort into something, you come away with
A better product.
a better product. If it's your music, if it's your playing, you put effort into it.
Sure.
You
You
know,
want it more.
you want it more.
You want more invested.
Yeah, yep. I hear a lot of old school guitarists talk about that with dropping the needle onto the vinyl, because before we had a way to loop a section, if you wanted to learn a particular passage, a solo from your particular favorite guitarist or a sax player or something, the only way you could loop back in vinyl was to pick up the needle and drop it back to where you eyeballed. This is where it's gonna,
And where you're
where it's supposed to be. Yeah, and I remember that. I remember, oh my God, Fresh Cream came out, and I want to learn the solo to I'm So Free, So I need to drop it over and over again, and my grandparents would be knocking on my bedroom door. What are you doing? Because I'm just It's no, you don't understand. Do what do.
Do you remember what the first lick was that you did that with? Do you remember the
probably
the first thing that you were like,
do da dee da do day ba do ba ba
Beatles, huh?
Yeah.
That was the first guitar riff you
Probably. I mean, it wasn't the first guitar riff that I wanted to learn, but probably, yeah. At that time, though, I got to say, I had graduated at that point, somewhere at that point, in the sixth or seventh grade, a reel-to-reel Grundig tape recorder, because I lived in Germany, so I could do quarter-inch reel-to-reel tape, and so I would put the microphone up against my radio, and we would get the BBC Top 20 every Sunday.
So you were hearing So back to my question about listening to something before they broke. You were listening to the Beatles before they hit America.
Yes.
That's cool.
There we go. That's
right.
that's
and
there.
the Who, and the Yardbirds, and the Kinks, and the
so you were just tapped in early.
yeah.
To the British invasion before it happened.
Wow.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yep. I remember the week that the Who and the Yardbirds entered the BBC Top 20, and the Who was Can't Explain, and the Yardbirds was For Your Love, simultaneously, and they sort of fought each other up to the top. But I can quote you, the shang shang. I mean, that's For Your Love, and Can't Explain is Janet, and Janet, and I'm just sitting there going, what is this? My little Hagstrom guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, these were all, and they were breaking and fighting each other, and the Beatles were, of course, a part of that, and the Stones. And so the Stones, when either the Beatles or the Stones released a song, they sort of went like right to number one. But you'd see these other bands fight each other. But I remember hearing one Sunday, and that probably came in on, number 6 on the top 20 or something. And I'm thinking to myself, I have never heard anything like this. And for some reason, my parents and I, we were supposed to go somewhere, and so my parents said, "All right, Andy, it's time to go. We're chop, 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 chop." No, this is the first time I'd heard "You Really Got Me." I was not leaving. Wild horses couldn't have dragged me out of my bedroom because I had to finish this because I'd never heard done it. I mean, let's face it, power chords we're used to now. The first time you ever heard a power chord?
Yeah.
Ever?
Yeah, just
ever?
Yeah.
The first person to ever play. Now, Link Ray did, but I wasn't aware of him at the time.
Right.
So it was the Kinks. The first time I heard a fuzz tone, you you can't forget that shit.
Yeah. Well, how old were you where were you spending your teenage years, high school years?
I came back to the States finally.
So you were in
high school.
You were in the States in high school.
10th, 11th, 12th grade.
So what was that like coming from Europe in I guess 60s?
Yeah.
How old were you when freshman in high school? What year would that have been?
Let's see. 67, 68, 67. And I was born in 51. So what was I, 15?
Okay, so 67. So Europe, I mean, and I might be wrong on this assumption, but was Europe was a little bit more progressive a lot more progressive on the racial front, like the civil rights a little bit more, right?
Interesting.
I mean, because I remember when I read Miles Davis's autobiography.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
I remember he
liked
talked
to
a
go
lot. I loved to go
he
to
could
Europe
go to Paris
to play.
and Denmark.
He felt like he was more respected as an artist and a human being.
Yep.
And wasn't harassed, as opposed to back in the United States. So what was that? Did you, when you came back from Europe to the States in the 60s during the civil rights movements and all that kind of stuff, like, was that a head trip for you where you're like, I can't relate to...
It was a head
trip. You had lived in the Middle East. You'd lived in Europe. You'd lived all over, and then you come back and you're like, God, these people, like, how do y'all think this way?
It was a head
trip.
trip.
It exists?
But what I hadn't understood was, I'd lived in the Middle East, so I'd lived in the Arab world, but I hadn't really, over in Europe, lived in a black and white American world.
Right.
The only time that really I went to school in an American school with black and white Americans was in Germany, because at the time when I went to school, there was East and West Germany. So I went to school in Bonn, at the capital of West Germany at the time, and there was a big Marine base, and that was the first time I met black Americans. It coincided with, so that would be with me in junior high. And it coincided at the time when Memphis soul music was starting to emerge. And that was the first time I ever saw black and white Americans. And this is, we got to hand it to Booker T and the MGs, coming out of Memphis. Four-piece band, Steve Cropper, Dick Dunn, Booker T, and the drummer, I'm blanking on his name, but he's one of the greatest drummers in the world, integrated, black and white. And I was getting this music through the BBC, because it was Otis Redding sitting on the top of the bay, and I'm seeing the, Hit Parader magazine and looking at this. So it wasn't until I came back to the States that I began that odyssey that you're talking about, which I so distinctly believe in now, and why, though
Steve
I was...
Steve Potts was the drummer.
No. Jackson. Alan Jackson? No, not Alan, but Jackson.
You said Booker T and the MGs?
Yeah, the original. Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's... But this is why I love to live.
But how much of a head trip was that?
It was a huge head trip.
When you came back and you saw the divisiveness, and you were just like, did you know about it? Like, before you, like...
Adam.
Did you know?
I lived in a time when cities... No. When I tell younger Americans what was going on in the 60s. Cities on fire. National Guard shooting down college students.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I lived at that time. I had a Vietnam War draft card. This isn't history. This is life at that time. There was incredible racial struggle. Fortunately for me, when I went to Berkeley, which School of Music, now it's called College of Music, but it wasn't accredited when I went.
You went to Berkeley School of
did,
Music?
yeah.
Wow.
But back in the day,
Yeah.
when it was a jazz school,
Yeah.
where they didn't have song production and they didn't have a recording studio, they didn't it wasn't oriented toward business. It was a hardcore jazz school. Fortunately, that was completely integrated, and that's where I first really got to hang and be with fellow Americans who had a slightly different skin color.
Right. Well, I guess maybe I didn't ask the question. Like, when you were leaving Germany and coming back to, like, you're on the plane, did you know that of the divisiveness in the United States before you got here?
No.
So when you got here, you were kind of exposed to it for the first time.
Exactly, because when I came here, it was 1967.
As opposed to being raised around it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
I understand exactly what you're saying. I landed in the middle of something I didn't really quite understand.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I don't feel like a completely integrated American. There are so many cultural things. When I say integrated, I don't mean we're not talking skin color. We're talking culturally integrated. Because there are so many stories and things that people have of my age, of like, oh yeah, howdy doody. I don't know what the fuck howdy doody is.
Yeah, but you spent your formative years of your, like, the first 15 years of your life living not in this country.
Not in this country. So none of the cultural references, Mickey Mouse Club,
Right.
what do you, Annette Funicello,
Mickey Mantle.
Mickey Mantle. I don't know.
Like,
I don't know shit about sports or any of that stuff. But I can tell you quite a bit about cars from Europe in the 60s, because that's, when you're a boy, you start getting into, I can Renault Dauphine versus an Alpine, Alfa Romeo, this and that,
And you would get some Did they have cartoons in Lebanon? Like, what was that like?
We didn't have
living in
TV.
Lebanon?
I
Yeah,
didn't
like,
have TV. There was no TV.
Yeah.
I didn't have TV in France. The first time my family had TV was in Germany, but there really wasn't a lot of TV to watch on German TV in the 60s.
We're so spoiled.
Did you speak the languages, any of those languages?
Ein bisschen, ja. Je peux parler un peu français. And anyone who speaks Arabic will know how jive what I just did was. I counted to 10. I can also call you crazy. Should I in Arabic?
Sure, go for it. Wouldn't be the first time.
Inti majnuni katir. I said you were very crazy.
You were right.
Yeah,
So,
So are you like?
been around.
Were you just throwing out the only phrases you know, or you could go?
no,
we could
with
go-
Arabic.
We could go down to Istanbul and get
No,
some
no.
hummus, and you could talk with the waiter.
No, I can't. And
Anymore? Or-
anymore.
Yeah.
But there was a time when I was really young, in my infancy, toddler type age, when I was equally fluent in Arabic and English. But that wasn't very fluent in either one,
Yeah,
you know.
right.
Because,
But-
you're,
but I
you're
was-
also learning. Yeah, sure, understood.
But
That's why you need 1 through 10. yeah.
Yeah.
But still, even on though at an early, that's a far different environment than probably most. Because once you settled in the States,
yeah,
you had a much different experience than
Yeah,
what most
yeah.
typically would be. I don't know. I hate that. Again, typical experience to say something.
no.
like,
But
yeah.
but
I get what
actually,
you're saying.
Matt, it's true, because I still feel kind of a little bit isolated there's so many cultural things.
You should. You've interviewed Santana and Slash and Baby King. Yeah, you should feel like you're a little different or have had a different experience than everyone else. Yeah, sure.
I can tell you a Santana story too if you want it.
Yeah, come on.
All right, so
Give it to us.
all right, so here's the beauty of Carlos Santana. The first time I interviewed him, so I have two Santana stories, and I ramble, so I'll try to make these succinct. But the first time, I drive over to, let's see, San Rafael is where his headquarters were at the time. And so again, you have an assignment. I just came across from, across the Bay Bridge over to San Rafael because I lived in San Mateo, so across the bridge. But this is before the internet, so you have your little map and you're driving and you go take a left turn at you have to map it out, with using a map physically.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I drive. No, seriously, that's what you have to do.
It's just when you talk about. I remember a time when I didn't have a smartphone as well. I mean, I get it, but it's so.
I had to look
strange.
at
it's so strange to think about that.
I
you
had to
can't
have
just
a
pull
map.
your phone out and tell you where to go.
I would have to say, okay, I need to be in San Rafael, but on this particular street and this particular address.
Yeah.
It's not just sort of going to San Rafael and then driving around and going, where's Carlos?
Yeah.
So you have to draw it all out. And anyway, so I drive up to this. It's a strip mall, which is mostly auto body repair shops, and
Sure. What year is this? When is this?
First cover story. You could look this up too for Guitar Player, but first cover story for me, not for Carlos on Guitar Player. But I'd say, mid '90s,
Okay.
1996, something like that, maybe. And so I arrive and I have the address and I'm looking up and I see, okay, but there's no sign that says Santana Enterprises. Nothing like that. It's a machine shop, muffler shop over here, and a, auto body paint shop over there, and this thing in the middle. Okay, well, let's see. I got my recorder and okay, ding dong. Boy, I hope this is right because I'm tasked to get a cover story. If you mess up, you come back without the fish. You get the sardine instead of the mackerel, instead of the tuna. Not good. Okay, ding dong, the door opens. Oh my God! I look into this room where there are 3, 4, 5 women with headsets and the kind of telephone mics and stuff, and they're doing business in these little cubicles. It's all quiet and air conditioned. Meanwhile, out in the street, it's grinding on cars and stuff. In here, it's all cool. It's like, oh, and so I speak to the person who opened the door, and I say, I'm Andy Ellis, Guitar Player Magazine. I've got an interview with Carlos at 3:00, and they go, oh yeah, come on in. I try to come early, not super early, but early enough that I'm not the guy holding up Carlos. Don't want to be that guy. So they say, oh, yeah. Come on over here. We'll show you. And they lead me into this large rehearsal space with paintings on the wall of Miles Davis and Jimi Hendrix and, Bob Marley. This is totally Carlos, right? So these big, big paintings. Big rehearsal space. And the person who drops me off says, Carlos will be with you in a moment. And meanwhile, I'm going through his business office space with people doing licensing and whatever they do. So I sit down. Merchandising, And oh, by the way, this particular interview
Selling
was
his
with
hats.
Carlos Santana, the flamethrower. Sorry, I'm making a stupid reference.
But Superstition was the album. He covered that Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green. Supernatural.
Give me your heart and make it real.
That's the one.
Yep,
that's the one. Yep, Supernatural. And so he had come back, from his 60s star, and this was his big,
That's his big commercial success.
Big Supernatural. So
11 Grammys or some shit like that.
I know.
Great album. Yeah.
Yep. So, but that all hadn't hit yet. the album had come out, but this is, again, going back to Adam's point about, what's it like to hear the music before it happens. So I didn't have any context like, oh, my God, this is blown up, Carlos, whatever. No, it was Supernatural is a Peter Green instrumental with Fleetwood Mac, and Carlos turns out to be a big fan of Peter Green's playing. So I'm there sitting in this big empty rehearsal room with all the murals, with a little table next to me, but I have a DAT machine that I have to plug in to the wall to get juice because I don't want to run out on batteries when you're interviewing Carlos Santana. No, not good. So, though I have spare batteries, of course, be prepared. So I'm sitting there. The door opens and Carlos walks in. He's got his floppy hat on, It's like, he's a really generous dude, It's like, hello, Andy. He knows my name. Wow, that's unusual because I wouldn't expect that either. I'm just the journalist, But he's like, hello, Andy. Oh, Mr. Santana. No, call me Carlos. Okay. Where would you like me to set up? And he goes, oh, well, let's just put you got to record. Let's put this on the table here. And I say, okay, so where should I plug it in? And he hands me his hat. His felt black floppy hat. He hands me his hat. He says, where's your adapter? I hand it to him, and I said, no, I'll be happy to do this because I'm not trying to, I don't want Carlos to be plugging in my recorder. I'm happy to do it, Mr. Santana. And he goes, no. He crawls under the freaking table, and I have this picture that's still in my mind. His shirt, as he's inching down, he's on the floor, and as he's inching backward, his shirt somehow rolls up. So I see Carlos's belly. There's Carlos's hairy belly. He's not embarrassed. He's not trying to be a rock star. He's not being like Minion. Minion. Plug this in.
Cord.
Call me when this fucker is ready, and I'll come in and do the interview.
He wasn't being Prince.
I don't even know if Prince would.
Prince didn't do interviews.
I do have
at a certain point he stopped doing them, right?
Well, I have a friend who did interview Prince.
Yeah.
But there were rules and regs, and that was a guitar player as well. But
that's crazy.
So there's Carlos, and his shirt is inching up over his belly, and he's under the table and saying, "Look, all right, is that working?" And I'm turning on. Oh yeah, I got it. We got current, and he crawls back out. I hand him his hat back.
That's so wild.
Yeah, and then he sits down. He's just a dude. He's brushing himself off and wants to talk music.
Yeah, he's just a dude that dropped acid while playing guitar at Woodstock. That's all he is.
Here's another thing that he told me in that particular interview. And I've interviewed him 3 times. He's an amazing person. But here's what he told me. He said he came from Mexico to San Francisco. His dad, I'm not sure what the circumstances were, but Carlos came and did high school in San Francisco. And so he was born in Mexico, came across the border in whatever conditions he came across, and he was doing high school in San Francisco. He used to go to the Fillmore back in the day. Remember now, the Fillmore in the mid-'60s in San Francisco, Janis, Hendrix, The
Great
Who.
venue.
Great venue. He saw all that, yeah. And he was playing guitar, and he said to his friends, because he was really big on Mike Bloomfield, who played with the Butterfield Blues Band, and Carlos would see this, and he'd go to his friends, I'm going to play the Fillmore. And Carlos told me, his friend said, no, man, you're tripping. And Carlos goes, no, you're tripping. I'm going to play the Fillmore. And he said it to me that way. No, you're tripping. I'm going to play the Fillmore.
Period.
Done.
He played the Fillmore.
Yeah.
Not only did he play the Fillmore, he played Woodstock.
Yeah. No kidding. He's done some shit.
He
But
had
he gets
that.
it.
He had that
I'm gonna do
in
this.
his mind.
I'm going to do this.
He just knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me a couple other things in that interview too, and I hope I'm not, I don't know. All right.
Let it out.
All right. So he says, so I'm talking to him about, how he develops as a player at that, my question would have been to him, like, today, how do you find inspiration? Because here he's done this Supernatural album, and he's,
That's a good question.
so how do you've been playing all this time? How do you get inspired? And he goes, when the wife and kids are in bed, he indulges, and he says, I have a video camera, and I tape myself. I watch myself playing stuff so that when I go into the zone, I don't have to remember it tomorrow, but I just want to find something where it sounds like me, that I own. He'd videotape, and maybe he still does it, but at the time he videotaped himself. He'd get in the zone. We know what we're talking about here.
He'd smoke some weed. He'd smoke some weed.
Yeah.
And then he would play.
And then play. And because Carlos is not, he doesn't. I don't believe he reads and writes music. He's not approaching it from that particular angle, So where it's like, oh yeah, I'll write that down. This is a good line. He wanted to just play, and so he would tape himself so that he could look back and go, that's what I'm doing. And I think it's a great idea, maybe we should all tape ourselves playing.
I at least try to, anytime I'm playing a show, to always have an audio record. Like if I'm even playing sideman on a gig, but I'll do it to where I'll leave it really close to my stuff. Not because it's like I'm wanting to hear what the whole mix is going to sound like. I want to hear me.
Yeah.
I want to hear all my fuck ups. I want to hear my, like, I want to know. And the thing is what I'll do is I started doing it at first. Like I was like, oh, I'll do it. Then I'm like, I'm never going to listen to this. But then I started thinking, and I was like, no, but I do remember two specific spots in the set that I flubbed that, or I did that, or there was something that was
great.
really great.
Yeah.
And then you pull from that, and then and so you're not listening. So that's it. There's some like I'll tape the entire
Fast
thing.
forward.
I don't listen to any of it.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of it that I've done it where I'm like, oh, there's that one pass, like you were saying, the one pass that like was great, or oh man, what did I do? What happened there? Was that me, or was that the drummer up? No, that was me. But taping yourself, I think that's a new phenomenon too that you're going to see with a lot of younger players because, I know like our friend Daniel Donato, one of the things that he'll do is, and there's a lot of other guys in town that I know it. They'll set up their camera they'll set up a camera and then they'll just play and they'll practice and they'll just play. Guthrie Trapp does the same thing.
Yeah.
Plays and then there's probably a 30-second or a minute long spiel or spout with there that they can post onto a YouTube thing, but they were sitting there practicing and they just put a camera on them. So that's kind of you're seeing that with more and more kids. Like Zane Carney does a lot of that stuff. What is it? Mateus Asato or something.
There's people. There's some guitar players I follow on Instagram that's all they do.
And
my buddy Greg Martin from Kentucky Headhunters, I got a couple of things that he sent me that just would fry your testicles, man.
I don't want that. I don't want
No,
that.
you do. You do.
That.
As a player, you do. You just briefly.
I want plenty. Lots of it. I want it saturated. There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much every day. If I know that there's probably I don't think there's ever been a day, at least living in Nashville, where I've played guitar where I go, I'm good enough.
No.
Or I'm like, but it's always been like but every single day or anytime I'm after, I can go, oh man, that was cool, or that looks hard, or oh, how did you do that, or oh, whoa, I gotta practice.
Yeah,
there's something that's always reminding me that like, oh, I haven't learned that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I'm gonna have to work on that for a while.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of levels of that your playing can kind of. You can chip away at, but I don't know. I think there's very few players on this earth, and especially musicians that are like really into it, that aren't constantly going, shit, that person's. If I'm not doing this, someone else is. It's like Kobe, man. Kobe Bryant out there shooting baskets. Like the guy getting to the gym early because he thought he was gonna. Oh, all right.
I'm sorry. I was trying to. Pull
Adam's
up
bored over there.
I found a shredder. I found somebody posting a video. Like it was easy to find.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of guitar.
Oh
players
yeah,
that follow
like
me
the
on
hashtag
Instagram.
Riff Wars and Guitars Daily, Riffs Daily.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of it's fun, but it's how you use it. It's also the same thing where
Yeah.
it's like if you also think if that's how you want to get famous by just doing your thing on Instagram, cool.
Well, I mean, some of the people that I follow, they'll never be famous. They're
No.
like jazz dudes, and they're showing. They're just
This is it
doing
for
their
them.
licks.
This
is it.
This is it.
But this is a lot more than they
Yeah,
would have gotten the
yeah,
spotlight
yeah.
back in the day.
I mean,
so.
when I was
It's true.
in when Mile 8 was playing all of those many years, we recorded all of our shows,
Yeah.
every single one,
Yeah.
because like some of the members of the band love to go back and listen to them, and because we did a lot of jam and improvisation,
Yeah.
and sometimes we go, ooh, we can start remembering to incorporate that
Sure.
becoming a theme when
Yeah.
and
It's spontaneous
I never listened to
composition.
the shows. I never listened back to the recordings as much as some of the other guys did, but I did notice that when I did,
It improved you.
I enjoyed it, and it improved. the
Worked for
playing.
Zappa.
Yeah, you listen,
yeah.
you go, I don't remember doing that, but okay, that's going in the repertoire.
Or I'll take that out.
yeah. I'm not gonna
Which
do
is
that
often the
again.
case. It's like,
Mm. Well, I'm so self-loathing about my own playing. I'm like, I don't ever want to play.
Yeah, but you get after it. It's the
I
same
used
way.
to
And
be that way.
I think it's
but you were mentioning about the Instagram and YouTube. You pulled up this female rockin' looking guitarist who's going to shred. We just did a story recently on Tash Sultana. Do you guys know who she is?
No,
nope.
tell us about her.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Tash?
Tash Sultana. Okay. A young Australian woman whose YouTube she would record herself playing in the bedroom.
Tash Sultana.
Got her.
Sultana.
Following her on Instagram.
Yep.
I'm pulling her up on.
Well, she has a sold-out American tour now. Sold out. Her first American tour right now. Sold
there are
out.
the dates. There they are.
There-
Canada,
She,
New York.
she's hotter than a pistol. Young woman who started recording in her bedroom as a teenager. Now she does really fantastic.
She's coming to Nashville. There's Austin, Texas.
Look at her. Look at that though. I mean, she's.
What's she doing? Doing like a workshop or a clinic
No,
or
there's
something?
just someone in the background talking, and she's just playing. It's like I'm out of this conversation.
And she
It's
loops.
got that Eric Johnson
Yeah,
reverb going on.
But she also does looping and singing. So she'll do a bass line. She'll play it on her guitar, bass line, with a pedal that drops her guitar down an octave. And she'll start with some kind
so
of
it's
drum
just her
loop.
thing.
And she
Okay.
just does this incredible, and in the end it's somewhere between Sonic Youth and Bob Marley.
Can you do
Look at her.
audio of
I
that?
think I can. Let's try.
I think I can.
She is just and she came up through YouTube.
Yeah.
Only through just people just tripping on what she does and blowing up. And now she is,
I'm afraid it's gonna loop us back or give us some weird.
she's insane, and she's there she is. She's a raging beast. Here she goes.
That's us talking. That's what I was afraid of. We're gonna have a little loop of us going on in the background.
My grandfather gave me a guitar, which I still have, and that's kind of what it stemmed from, really. My childhood was very naughty. I was very naughty. I was so fucking naughty. Really.
You love her already, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check her out.
I
No.
couldn't handle the stress. How funny is that?
I'm gonna fast
Not
forward
really,
a little bit
but
to
it
see if we can get some more.
all of them.
So yeah, so she just does
She's
her
a
own-
one-woman band.
I
Nice.
remember at the start.
And-
when I was
and-
getting
Look at all those pedals.
Yeah.
Woo!
That's awesome.
And then I
That's
was
some
like,
gear-
it's such a
that's some gear
ignorant
porn right
thing for me
there.
to think about myself, that everyone
How old
else
is she
enjoy
now?
that, because
I don't know,
I
but
don't
early
enjoy
20s.
anything, like every type of music or
That's
even
crazy.
every single day that I live or every single color that there is.
All right, don't get
I don't
mad at us if
enjoy all of that because we're all
we're
different
just
people.
promoing you. So
But
don't
there's a
sue us for
marginal
throwing your
people
stuff.
I don't
there.
think that.
No.
That's really cool though. Good for her.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
check her
it's
out.
just to say that some people come up through this new system of social media. When I say new, because it's new for me, and I basically fucking hate it for my own how I spend my time. But we would never have heard of Tash. She came out of Australia in some small town, She put her
Yeah, for
YouTube
sure.
videos up, and people just went ape shit.
Yeah.
And now she's written up in Premier Guitar, and she's got a sold out tour. A lot of the dates in the United States, her first American tour, are all sold out.
That's really cool.
All sold out because people know who she is.
Yep.
And she just has some of her. You can see her original bedroom videos. She's standing there in a bedroom, teenage girl playing, and there's a dog walking past the hallway.
Well, man, that's what people
it's
want right
just-
now. They don't
it just-
want. There's people that don't like. There's a point when they want some kind of produced, but like for those, for like Instagram videos and stuff, they don't want to. They want that. They want the dog. walking
Absolutely.
across the back. They want the kid.
real.
Yeah.
The real.
And
They want
Tash
the-
Tash is uncompromisingly real.
I love that. It's a good time.
Yeah.
I I nay to the person who says that it's over, that art is over, or that we're not going to be able to thrive as artists or anything. I think we'll do just
No.
fine.
Yeah.
Just
It just
fine.
is different.
It's a different kind of struggle.
Different kind of struggle, but the struggle never leaves.
No, it never. Well, there's always been one.
And
Might not be the same struggle, but there's always been a struggle, especially for an artist or for someone trying
yeah,
to,
in the creative world, I mean, it's important to us, and it's also fundamentally important to humans to have the creative dimension, but it's not as important as fresh water as the folks in Puerto Rico right now.
Oh God,
No. Fresh water, electricity to
Yeah.
keep your shit going.
Yeah, keep your stuff cold too, and do your thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
We're just larding in all this extra stuff. Okay, now that we have that and a roof over our heads,
yeah.
let's get all comfy cozy together and talk about creativity and poetry. And what
tell
else you got in there, Adam?
I'll tell you what though. We got round two on that. I'll tell you what the thing on that though, and I'll give you. I will give you that music and entertainment, especially in that sense, or the artistic entertainment, is not a life, or at least something to survive. You don't need it to survive, but in a sense, thank you, sir. You also see that in people in those situations, like I can guarantee you that there's people down there in Puerto Rico right now, though, even though no electricity, no water, there's probably somebody down there
Playing.
There,
To hold the heart together.
Yes. Yeah. So that's where my argument, and that's where it's like you could probably run into that same argument where you said like the Navy SEALs would get mad. The people without down there would probably be very like, fuck you, buddy. I'll trade you my guitar for some, jug of water, kind of
Yeah,
thing. Like
yeah.
I can see how I have no real
Right to
say
Yeah.
any of that. But at the same time, I also know that I've seen and have been in bleak or starker situations, or know of that and hear the stories of just that. The music is the thing that can bring a little bit of, it just takes you away from the shit for a little while. That's important. And it turns it off for a little while.
And it can make us have bigger minds, because back to Adam's question about the first time when I came back to the States and what the cultural shock was like on many different levels, but what I came to understand intimately through music and through fellow musicians, black and white, I came to understand, I'd only heard over in Europe, I'd only heard the blues filtered through the Yardbirds and the Rolling Stones. And, they were doing Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters. True. And then when I got into high school, listening to Cream and even Hendrix, they were channeling Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters. And so, and the Butterfield Blues Band, my hero, Mike Bloomfield, was like, okay, well, what's this? And as I came back to the States and not only came to listen to Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters, but also know people who were maybe their great-grandparents were slaves, grandparents. It's hard to, I'd have to do the math on the time in the 60s. Not that far removed. Not that far removed from that history. And then suddenly a whole swath of American music that I really hadn't tuned into from the source, only through the British invasion. And it was great that the British invasion brought many Americans like of my age to understand an earlier form of music that's very important to what rock and roll is about. We wouldn't have rock and roll. Well, we wouldn't have it without Chuck Berry, but Chuck Berry drew from Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and all the others, and the strife that went behind it. Chuck Berry didn't sing about strife, but Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters certainly did.
Sure.
And does that make me a richer musician? Oh, yeah. And my understanding, the more I can possibly glean about the struggles, we all struggle as musicians. We're not,
I see what you're saying.
we're not, welcome into society writ large. But for me to hear the struggle of musicians who might have to actually take a broken guitar string and kind of twist it back together again so they could play because they couldn't get the next set of Black Diamond strings down at the grocery at the drugstore. Mm-hmm. That's where you bought guitar strings back in the day. I'm serious.
Oh, I know it. Oh, yeah. You heard about Clarence White and Tony Rice, but again, they were a little more established and do your thing. But before that, but getting back even to, like you said, the blues, like the Mississippi, the Delta Mississippi. Well, one thing I remember like telling people with like resonator guitars or like metal body guitars, like why, like what is well, it rusts, it doesn't warp. It doesn't like the wood.
And it's loud.
And it's loud. It's an amplified guitar.
Yeah.
You aren't affording a speaker.
Yeah.
You aren't affording that. So it's like you're going to get this loud honking guitar that you can clank around.
In a juke joint.
Yeah, that isn't going to break. That a guy can't run very far with it because it's too heavy to run with.
And if someone attacks you, you can swing that sucker and clock them.
Yeah, it's a bat. Yeah, so it's like there's a lot of
Les
that.
Pauls are good for that too, by the way.
But you start thinking about like all of like the out of necessity.
Yeah.
What kind of music? Like blues music out of that, like it came out of necessity. The sound came because that's what they had.
Yeah.
It's not like you could go and, I mean, I don't know. This has been a lot of like, it's not like you can just go and get that sound wherever you want. Back in the day, you had to kind of.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be,
You look at where technology, when it was available, where it took music or where it has been taking music, But I just think that artists and creators, I think you get some that are really stuck that they want to only do the traditional stuff that they know and do, and they don't need to do, they don't need to be bothered by anything else. And then you have that classification of artists that like, here's a distortion pedal. I've never heard of that before. I'll try that. Here's a MIDI controller.
Yeah.
Oh. I'll write an album called Face Value and make a lot of money off it, and like okay, cool. Make the one of the most famous drum fills in the entire world by Phil Collins. Like, and then you get the people that are like, okay, you get an auto tune. All right, well I'm gonna not quite use it the way they want to use it, and I'm gonna do that. Like, so it's like you get those artists that like, and I'm one of those.
Right. Push it.
I can make something with this. Yeah.
Kick it. Hammer on it. Yeah.
What's
This looks like this will go in that hole.
This looks like it'll fit in this hole. There's
This-
those
this
kinds of
looks
artists.
like
Well,
we'll
I
go-
plugged my Hagstrom guitar into my Grundig, and by the way, it was a tune.
That's how cool shit
I
happens.
think this will go into this hole. And
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
make that
Well, that
sound.
I mean, that it really is. I mean, it's the experimenting part. It's the figuring out. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, it didn't figure. You might have an idea of, but the more you do it, you might get a better idea of, like, if I probably put this in this hole, it's probably going to do this because I've done that before. Like life. So I keep doing this. Probably going to keep having kids because I did this once, and if I keep doing it, I
that's
bet I'll
what
have
we're
kids
talking
again.
about.
It's all relative.
Oh,
Metaphors.
I thought it
It's
was.
all. It's like music.
didn't write
like,
a lot of metaphors. in the
Music
guitar
like
magazine?
garden. Music like gardening and like sex. It's all about like death and sex. Basically.
Oh, I didn't understand that before.
Fucking and
well,
dying.
yes, I
Fucking
did.
and
I
dying.
got a lighthearted question for you.
Then we're close.
Little
We got- then we-
transition.
Then we got to get back into the other transitions.
Yeah, right.
The quick
I
fire
got some good ones.
Oh.
Well, not really. It's just kind of a yes or no. But
I got
first,
great ones.
I'll try to
just kidding,
answer in-
bullshit.
what was your what is your favorite, like, what's your go-to sit down electric guitar? Like, what's the one that you feel the most comfortable playing? Like, what's been your favorite through your lifetime? What are you?
I got a question after that because I think I know the answer.
Okay, I have a lot of guitars.
I would guess that you do.
I am a Telecaster and a Les Paul on an electric side. Those are my two favorite platforms.
Right.
I'm also into baritone guitar, so I have baritone Telecaster and baritone Les Paul.
We met over a baritone guitar.
Yes.
You were lending it to an old Matt and Adam alumni, Justin Koch.
Yeah. He still has my Jaguar
What
baritone.
an asshole. He
No,
still
no,
has
no.
that?
No, because I yeah.
He's not a jerk. He's avoiding you, isn't he?
No. He's teaching it.
He knows I know he has.
Yeah. That guitar is called Brown Sugar. That guitar is a Fender Jaguar baritone.
What is that tune? Still tuned
Down a
E?
fourth.
So it's like your E's a B, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It was sold originally, though, Adam, as an octave down, sort of a smaller
shit.
version of a bass six. That's how it came tuned from the factory. I have two of these, so I have one for myself and one for Justin. But I reconfigured it to a baritone, and a baritone, these are supposed to be short questions and answers. So a baritone can either be down B to B, but still the intervals of a guitar, so you still can play all your guitar chords, or A to A.
Your E chord's a B chord.
I got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or A to A, that's a little bit lower, and it's a fifth low, down a fourth or down a fifth, and then you're into bass. But I also have a soft spot for Martin 28 series. My current best girlfriend is a J28 Martin. J28.
Is it- yeah.
What is a J28? Is he tripping? Yeah, he's tripping. No, a J28. J would indicate jumbo.
Quado?
It is a baritone Martin.
No.
With a jumbo shape that looks like, say, a J200 Gibson. You know, those big ass.
Yeah, round, yeah.
It's 15 inches across the lower bout. 15 inches. It's in a Martin. It's, rosewood sides and back and
It's huge.
And spruce top. So it's D28. All the woods and the parts and
Sitka top.
Sitka top,
Mahogany
rosewood.
neck, rosewood. Yeah.
Yep. Ebony fretboard.
But a baritone.
But a
Shit.
baritone. It's a
Ooh,
27
man,
and a
that
half
sounds
inch
so
scale.
cool.
I want to play that so bad.
Yeah, right.
Well,
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I'd love
if
to
you're
let
invited, if I'm invited, I
oh,
can't
absolutely,
wait.
Oh,
absolutely. And this sucker, it's like a
Damn.
piano. And so
Yeah.
I'll go out and back singer-songwriters here in Nashville. I mean, I do this for sport, not for money, because I got my gig. So, someone will play the Bluebird and say, please play, well, she doesn't beg me to play it. That came out wrong. She'll say, we have a gig. And yeah, okay. And so I'll play this thing. Everybody else is capoing. Here's the thing for musicians. Singers, when you play guitar, when you play guitar backing up singers, if you're not in a full band with keyboards and horns and stuff, you are required to have singing strings, right? You're not just sitting there going, you need to have a big piano sound. Singers, female singers particularly, play in lovely keys like B flat, E flat,
Oh, the best.
D flat.
G sharp. Yep.
I would call it A flat, but it's the same.
A flat.
Yes.
You're right. You did say A flat. You're A flat. You did. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm only paid to play in G sharp, not A flat.
And so in order to get to the ringing strings, we use capos, which shorten. And pretty soon you're in this. It's kind of a nice sound on guitar for a minute, but it's kind of a choked up small sound. With baritone, you get an extra 3 or 4 inches. Here's how I'll describe it. The baritone B2B tuned. If I capo at the 5th fret on a baritone, I'm in guitar zone.
Right.
5th fret. Isn't that interesting? That means 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and open are all subtractive. So if somebody wants to play in the key of B flat, I can capo down.
Right.
Oh,
I don't have to capo up, and I have long ringing
that's
strings
cool.
on a Martin.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah. So with the baritone, it capos beautifully, and sometimes I'll actually capo up to the 6th or 7th fret on a baritone. You know,
You still get this,
and it's still it's beautiful.
Oh man, yeah.
I'm getting me a baritone guitar.
You can go down.
I thought I wanted a telly, but now I want a baritone.
Get a baritone telly. You have both. You can get a Warmoth neck, and they're built for Fenders. If you have a Fender Telecaster, the Warmoth neck is licensed by Fender. It'll just right on there, and then you just and then you get yourself a baritone, and then you can capo down.
No shit.
And you can be all burly. You can be all smell my pits.
Get in
You know.
Well, I'm actually I'm currently playing like that. I like that idea.
That guttural sound. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
Oh, and you know, after Glenn Campbell died, I went back and revisited my favorite Glenn Campbell songs. You know, Galveston, By the Time I Get to Phoenix, Wichita Linemen. And the first time I heard that low-tuned guitar, he was actually playing a Fender Bass 6, but Galveston, down, 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 down. You know, he would do these solos on this deep tuned guitar, and it's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. There's something about, for me, a low guitar.
Yeah, it sounds gets you. Oh, it's sick.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
Yeah. So get yourself a baritone.
I'm thinking about it. Sounds pretty awesome.
And you can accompany singers and not have to choke up. You can actually
move down.
Down from you know, if 5th fret is
I sing pretty high, like, and there's and it would be nice to be able to tune some stuff down, and
you should
as opposed to capoing up for sure.
Exactly. So if you already are using a capo and you're raising, now you have to rethink things. So what you might be playing out of a G position is going to have to be an A position or a C position or something. You just work it out. The nice thing about B2B is that, okay, if I have a baritone that's tuned B to B, B is the lowest string, but then I get suddenly E, A, D. Oh, those are guitar strings. I know those strings.
Yeah.
So you have home bass sucked right in there. It's good to go.
Close, yeah.
Yep. And you can capo down and have burliness behind you. If you sing high, I mean, what a sound that would be. Yeah. High male, burly guitar.
Yeah. I like it. I'm going to get me one
about
of
to
them
happen.
baritones.
I think we need to do a Kickstarter for
Kickstarter.
Adam.
For Adams.
Yeah, or you could just
get some jobs. He can get some JLBs. He's got juice.
Or we could get.
Or I'll just call Justin and be like, "Hey, man,
Yeah,
it's my
exactly.
turn to borrow
There you
that.
go.
Yeah.
That's exactly what needs to happen. That's
I had
exactly
a
what
good
needs
conversation
to happen.
with our buddy Andy. And he
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
"Hey,
yeah,
you
that's
gotta
the way to
give
do it,
over.
Got
yeah.
a baritone I can borrow.
Your time is up,
Yeah,
buddy."
yeah.
That'd be awesome. So, if you weren't okay, so we're
Cheers.
completely changing the subject now.
Yeah.
because I'm getting kind of hungry.
We'll round in third.
Pizza, hot dog, or hamburger?
Oh, you're getting to the. I had a few
I
more
eat
quick
vegetarian.
questions.
Dude, we're like
Okay,
two,
I got
we're
some quick questions.
over 2
I got
hours
quick
ago
questions.
for it.
Yeah.
All right, so there's been a lot of trends in the world of guitars.
Yeah.
And styles and
Yeah.
what's the worst? What's the one that you were just like when you saw the guitar you were just like, oh man, that's
Do you
not
mean
gonna
in
stick."
playing style?
No,
or?
I'm talking about like the physical aesthetic of the guitar. Like there's
yeah.
been some like goofy shit.
Oh yeah, there's goofy shit, and I have to qualify, because I could be misconstrued as a cranky old man. Oh, I love.
It's not cranky. I mean, when you saw a Steinbrenner or whatever it
Oh,
was, where you're
I
like,
I
that
actually
that looks,
no, I
what
like
is
the
that?
Steinberger because I played Chapman stick for a number of years, which is
Yeah.
a tapping instrument. I mean, totally full into that. But when it's the sort of swoopy reverse headstock kind of thing that represents an athletic style of playing guitar that's solely about the athletic sound of it and not about what we were talking about before, the juke joint sound of it.
You're
where-
talking
where
about the
it's-
'80s. You're talking about the
Yeah.
'80s guitars.
Yeah.
You're talking about the silly '80s Kramers and the there's a few of them.
Yeah, there's this whole
Crazy
and they still make
headstocks. Yeah,
and
yeah,
they still there's a group of people, and you know what, we're all guitarists, so I love you, man.
Yeah,
And gals,
yeah,
It's
I'm
fun.
not
Yeah.
I'm not
What are you gonna do with it?
Well, yeah.
What are you gonna
Well,
do with it?
if you're just going to display, you've practiced in your bedroom.
Yeah.
In your bedroom. That doesn't fucking count. What counts is when you get out on stage, it can be your high school talent show, it can be a bar, it can be, you get out there and fucking play to people, and then you listen to how they react.
Will you tell that to your girl Tosh or whatever?
Oh, no.
Tash, whatever,
Tash.
So they got.
She has
But
this.
she had to get out there and get it out to people.
Oh, no. Just because she started in her bedroom, no, she
That she
destroys
played out,
people.
yeah.
She destroys people live. She just had to show you that she could do that.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the bedroom guitarists who are like
Yeah.
so prissy that they turn up the gain in the little amp and everything sounds great. Oh yeah, try that in front of a crowd
It'd
of
be
say
entertaining.
500 people, and see how many people go to the exit door. No. Because if you really play music, you got to listen to the bass player, you listen to the drummer, listen to the singer, and you find that
Oh yeah.
spot where you're going, I'm in there. I mean, it's a physical rock and roll is full contact, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It is full contact.
It is.
We're not fucking around. When we play rock guitar, we're just not hitting each other, but we're hitting each other with
When I musician, I say it constantly.
sonically.
Musicians are athletes. If you treat yourself accordingly, and it's literally physically training. If you train and get yourself fit and get yourself right, when you pick up that instrument, and I
It's
know
gonna
when
be
I'm on point, like if I'm feeling right, if I'm getting like I pick up that instrument, and I'll tell you what how I know the biggest difference is because even though I'm working out, there are times when I do get to practice and get my chops up, and then there's times when I don't.
Right.
When I'm not healthy
Yeah.
and I don't get that time in, I flounder.
Yeah.
Like it's
yeah,
noticeable.
yeah. Yeah.
If I'm healthy and fit and I don't get to practice, but then I pick it up,
Oh, you're still in.
because your brain has just retained, because that it helps
Yeah.
it, and so that's the same thing. But
Yeah.
Joe Wooten of the Wooten Brothers,
Yeah. Yeah.
one of my favorite quotes, and I've said it probably 5 or 6 or 7 or 20 different episodes of our 30, that
Every time.
he
It's
said,
a lick,
I heard him say it. He was talking to Marcus Finney about, like, I overheard, it wasn't even my conversation to be a part of, but I overheard him saying, oh yeah, man, healthy body, healthy mind.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
for some reason, it's almost as cliches, but
No.
I'm like, if that badass thinks that, there's probably a lot of weight to that. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
I think that
yeah.
the musicians that take care of themselves and really, like Brian said, that know, hey, I gotta take a nap.
Yeah.
When you know you when you get your body right,
Right.
your music will be so right.
Right.
It'll be so right. It's an athlete.
Yeah.
Musicians rock is full contact.
It is full
It's
contact.
rugby. It's the hockey of
it
the
is
music
rugby.
world.
All right.
Next question.
Now I got some yes or no's. This is yes or no's.
All right.
This is
So
right on.
promise
this is-
yes or no.
Yes
right
or no.
This is yes or no's. I'm gonna throw names out. Guitar players' names.
And I
out.
just have to.
Have you interviewed them or not?
Okay.
That's it. Eddie Van Halen.
No.
Jimmy Page.
No.
Jack White.
Wait. I saw Jimmy Page with the Yardbirds.
Yeah.
That's
Well, that's significant.
oh, that's
Yeah.
fucking
Because
cool.
That's
Yeah.
before Led
Yeah.
Zeppelin, and I did see Led Zeppelin's first tour, and I haven't interviewed.
Yeah, because
Okay.
Yardbirds never did. Did the Yardbirds ever do did he ever tour with the Yardbirds in the States?
Yeah.
He
Well,
did?
well, no, I saw him in Canada. Actually, is where
okay.
I saw him playing
Okay.
the Telecaster. So there, you
What
know,
about
there.
any of the
And
like,
Jack White, I haven't interviewed Jack White, but I was at one of his parties, and boy, he knows how to throw a great party. And
Bet. What about
Off the clock then.
What about let's throw some John Frusciante, the Chili Peppers.
I know who you are talking about, and I have not. You know, and he's a monumental guitarist. He
is, isn't he?
He's monumental. My son's generation, my son came up as a skateboarder, you know, in the Bay Area, and they were hardcore, and the Chili Peppers and Frusciante were the epitome of what they thought rock and roll, and clearly so. So there are, you know, the rock and roll guitarists who I've interviewed are such a small slice of who exists.
Oh,
you
you
know,
just
I
keep-
just
Right.
it's just such a small sliver. But when I have interviewed them, this is something I'd really like to share with everybody. When you sit with, I'm just going to use B.B. King as an example. His aura is so big. I mean, it's tangible.
Yeah.
Well, he's passed now, but you know,
B.B. King.
B.B. King, Mr. King, and I made a point. I was taught this by a senior editor when I was a guitar player, Jas Obrecht, and he said, Jas Obrecht is a blues scholar, and he's interviewed all the great blues guitarists. And I've been on with him interviewing John Lee Hooker, you know, and you know, many other great bluesists. But Obrecht would say, Mr. King, Mr. Guy, Buddy Guy, you know, he would, because these great musicians came up in a time that we hardly can imagine.
They deserve a little reverence.
They just never heard that when they were coming up in their career. And I talked to B.B. King about this, not specifically about Mr. King, but I would always say to, you know, when I said, pleased to meet you, Mr. King, when the publicist is introducing us to sit down, you know. B.B. was super generous and a big heart. I've met other blues players who were very bitter. Albert King was, unfortunately, very bitter. Rightly so, through years of being screwed by managers and, you know, publishing stolen from you and stuff. B.B. said to me, I refuse to let my heart be eaten up by that. He was very grateful. He said, you know, Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, told my story to the world. And to Keith and Eric's credit, they always would say, oh, if you think I'm playing well, you need to go listen to B.B. King. And so B.B. had the heart to put that, the times where he had to go in through the back door in places where he had played in the 50s. This is after World War II. And he was, you know, a performer of merit, and he couldn't come through the front door in the South. You know, he had to come through the servants' back door, whatever it was called. But he didn't let that destroy him. And he said, you know, I'm not going to, you know, and I haven't let that kill me, you know. And it killed some others. It killed many others.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was not a yes or no. I'm sorry, Adam. I'm not a yes or no
Well,
kind
I
of
kept
guy.
throwing, and I'm just trying to think of like some rant, like you know.
Oh,
like,
you could keep fishing. Good, like you said to that. What you
That's
said.
why I
There's
was
so
gonna keep
many.
fishing.
There's so many names you could throw out there, and like you could hit. But I don't know. It makes him. Like
Maybe
you
a
said,
round
there's so
two.
many.
Maybe in a
Maybe in a round two, we'll just sit here and just rattle a list off the entire time, and we'll give. We'll
dude-
allow you 5 stories.
the dudes from Pearl Jam.
I haven't interviewed them either. I would be
They're-
mostly.
Both of those guys are so, or especially Mike McCready being the lead
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
He's so never mentioned in the lexicon of like dudes that can just absolutely
Just shred.
destroy a guitar.
And why is that?
Because he's part of he's known as the member of a band, and there's 2 guitar players, and I think it's more like they're considered like it's,
As opposed to
as-
Frusciante.
Or what about
yeah.
Angus Young? Because isn't that his brother who's playing? I can't even remember. See, I don't even remember his
but
name.
he's the only
Yeah.
guitar player. Or,
No, he's a
no.
phenomenal
Well-
rhythm guitar player. His
well,
brother's phenomenal. Like
that's
he's
true.
actually
Yeah.
the
Probably,
sound you're
yeah.
hearing
Yeah.
is him.
I don't know,
Like, you
but
know,
like it's just maybe it's
Chunk.
just one of those things.
Chudda
where,
Chunk,
like,
Chudda Chunk.
Yeah.
That's his
And
brother.
he's
That ain't Angus.
he's in dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Not Angus.
Oh, his
But,
brother.
yeah.
Really, I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's why they're not touring
yeah,
anymore.
that came out
Oh,
quite
man.
Yeah.
a while back. But like McCready, man, that guy.
Yeah, so
I
many,
lo-
but
Oh,
so
I
many.
had the privilege to go finally. So Pearl Jam was like the
For you.
Yeah, you know,
absolutely.
I'm a grunge
get-
kid, 90s kid. But like I finally got the chance to see him or the Pearl Jam a couple years ago at Bonnaroo. Never seen him before. And McCready, dude, he just paced that stage like of just prize fighter.
love it.
It was so good.
I love
All
that.
right, quick questions. We gotta wrap it up.
I
We gotta wrap it up.
I think we just do the "What's your last
Yeah,
day in
yeah.
Nashville look like?"
Yeah. Oh, well, okay.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want because that's what he's been doing is way better than the question.
No.
So
I
we're
just
spouting out.
I just have one thing to share with particularly younger musicians who might be listening to this. But
And if you're younger musicians that are still listening to this far
It's
in,
past your bedtime.
hell,
You go
yeah.
to bed.
Way to go, man.
and especially musicians who might be coming to Nashville. One thing I've learned through 54 years of playing guitar, but mostly through interviewing these guitarists that I've been privileged to interview. If I could stitch a motto on a wall hanging and hang it on my wall, one credo would be this is it. This is it. Never confuse music for the music business. And what I mean to you, you younger musicians out there, is that, and this is true for all of us, when we were starting to play, 11, 12, 13, whenever it was when you started.
13, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd get up in the morning and you were just like, out of your mind, oh my God, you get fucking through school and so I can play some more, passion. This passion can lead you into a very dangerous place. The passion can lead you into thinking that you're going to have a career and make money and be a big fucking deal in this world. That is where, if you buy into this, and it happens to all of us when it happens. It's you sign the contract, you do this, and I'm going to be great, and I've interviewed musicians who've gone down that path, and here's what happens: fame, if you're lucky enough to get it, most people don't, but if you are lucky enough to get it, it spikes and then drops you down on the other end. And there's new people coming. There's this tip-off, of the conveyor belt where all these other musicians who were lauded in their time are just thrown down into this coal pit of nothing. Okay, you can survive that if you knew ahead of time that this is the music business. It's not music, it's the music business. So you wake up after being thrown down into the, at the bottom of the pit because there's younger, sexier, thinner, better players. If you wake up at the bottom of the coal pit and you say and you look at your guitar and you go, "Fuck, I was supposed to be," you're looking at your beautiful, this is your spirit animal. And you're looking at it, you're confused. You think that this represents everything that was stolen from you. No. If you look at your instrument as the genesis and sustaining force of your journey into your soul, into your life, into your death, if this is the essence of your being, no one can take that from you. Yeah, you might have had a career and it comes and goes. No, but I wake up in the morning and I still play my guitar. You're saying to yourself, I'm happy because, man, that's and I just learned something new. Woo, that's pretty exciting. Oh, man, that's good. Never confuse music for the music business. If you do, you will be in hell because you're going to hate your instrument when you're in your 50s or 60s. I've seen it. I'm not going to even mention names of, well-known players who I've interviewed who had their time, and they're in the history books, and they had their time, and it fades away, and they're bitter people.
Because they got to go play a gig.
They don't even have a gig, or they don't play. Yeah, they play a gig at a bar, at a bar where they used to fill a stadium, and they hate it. And they look at how would you feel if you pop your guitar case open and you go, "Oh, I used to be filling stadiums, and God damn it," and so the guitar. So then you turn to something else, fast cars, and you wreck your car or heroin or whatever it is that you do.
Sure.
The guitar or whatever your instrument is your spirit animal.
It's you. Yeah, man. It's your extension.
Love this instrument. Let it take you where it is. But remember that the journey that you do with your instrument is much bigger than the music business. And the music business is a fickle bitch. You will get fucked by the music business. There is no
bad kind of fuck. The hurt.
The hurt kind of fuck.
Yeah, the stuff you try to forget.
And there's no
the one you forget.
There's no escape from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you will get fucked. Maybe Paul McCartney has not. Maybe because he's so great.
Which one though? There were probably a couple Paul McCartneys in there that got fucked up.
Oh no, because his island, because he actually died, and I was there for that whole episode where McCartney, it was really a serious thing. People thought he. Yeah, anyway, but that's my point.
This was before the internet, kids.
Yeah, this is only my point, and it's not big and complicated. It's just that remember that the music you play is the music you play, and the instrument that's brought you into this music is a beautiful thing. The music business is a fickle bitch. You might play your guitar or your trumpet or whatever it is that you play in the music business, but when the fickle bitch starts, you still have this if you don't confuse the two.
No. Waxing poetic with Amy Ellis.
It's
like talking to Yoda.
I mean, this has been, I think there's been too many times, not too many times, but enough times in this where Ab and I have just been sitting here like, what? Keep talking. Yeah, cool, man.
That's great.
Okay.
I mean, you're living it. This... That's pretty. What would your last day in Nashville look like? If you had to go away for a while,
you're moving back to
my
Germany,
last day in
or the Sudan.
My last day.
No, forget it. Hold on. We're gonna do. It's got to be official. Hot dog, hamburger, or pizza.
Yeah.
Well, if it's pizza, it's gonna be
no. What are you gonna go get right now?
Oh, all right, pizza.
Okay, where are you gonna go get it? In Nashville.
Boy, see. I would probably go. They closed all my favorite pizza restaurants. I'd go to Amerigo and get their flatbread pesto 3-cheese flatbread.
Amerigo's
You got
flatbread and-
specific.
Okay.
Oh, well,
No,
isn't
it's
that what
good.
you wanted?
No,
Perfect.
that's great. Some people just
Perfect.
some people just say 5 points.
Perfect.
That's like or something like something say something
Yeah.
easy. It's great. That was the right answer.
This question might be a little weird, considering your lack of television and American references, which you were American, you know.
Yeah,
I
didn't think of that.
Yeah. So, Karate Kid or Back to the Future?
Happens to be that I know both of those movies.
Which one would you like? Which one do you want to see on Saturday night? Rerun?
Oh, revisit?
Yeah, yeah.
Revisit?
Like, which one are you watching?
I want to.
There are one's on TBS and one's on TNT.
I want to. I
Which
want
one
to
are you
see a
watching?
ghost story again. David Lowery's Ghost Story again.
It's
No,
not.
that's not the
That's not
question.
the question.
Karate Kid or Back to the Future?
I don't have to subscribe.
No,
You're
that's
right.
the question.
You don't have to
I
subscribe.
don't.
That's the question.
That's the question. Though. There's
The
a follow up.
Here's the answer.
You haven't seen either one of them?
No, I know both.
It's a
No,
moot. It's a-
I know both.
Don't
So
I've
matter.
seen both.
But
Okay,
he
so
wants to
which
see
one?
something
Which
new.
one's
The
your favorite?
question
Which one
is-
do you like?
The question is, the same way I come up to an artist interview, and I'm not going to do that.
You're right. Okay.
I'm not going to do that.
Why is
Which
that?
one
And
did you
people-
like better?
Why is that? But there's a follow-up question.
So which one did you like better? That's
Yeah,
a better question.
that's
Which
what- yeah.
which one did you think was
Here's
a better
what I
picture?
love about both of them. I really like martial arts a lot.
this
No, you've got to give us a definitive answer. Quit politicking over here. Which movie do you like better? Which one?
I'm just gonna say
These are
You're not going to hurt
simplifying-
Ralph Macchio or Michael J. Fox.
No. I love the idea of time travel, and I love martial arts. And if we
you
weren't
could go
going
back
at
if
each-
you could go back in time to kick somebody's ass,
well,
where would you go and who would it be?
if you're going to kick somebody's
that's
ass,
the
you-
question.
You
That's the
actually
question.
have to do. You know,
No repercussions. You're gonna win the fight.
Yeah.
They don't die. You just really whoop their
Karate
ass.
Kid.
No. Okay, no. That's fuck. All right, Andy. We're moving on. Okay, if
right? Well, you asked that, right? Now I've come up with the answer.
there was
So if Karate Kid is the answer, the follow-up question is, have you ever been punched in the face?
Oh my God, yes.
okay.
Have you ever punched somebody in the face?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, there. That's
So
it.
my
That was
follow-
the question.
I
That was
meshed
it.
the two and said because if you said Back to the Future, we'd say if you could go back to any point in time, what would it be? But mine is if you could go back in time
He's
to
combined-
kick someone's ass,
Yeah.
who would it be?
He's combining the
I
questions.
combined the
Combining
follow up.
follow-up question.
I was adaptive.
I think, I would kick the ass of the guys. Oh man,
They made those
I've
stupid-looking
almost
guitars
been-
in the 80s.
No.
He likes them.
No. I've been in very, very, very dire physical situations. Have you ever had a knife in your throat?
No, I have
No,
not.
but a
Okay,
finger probably
that's
does
the
it.
person whose ass I would kick.
You go kick his ass. That's a
Yeah,
a
but
good
I
question.
can't
Yeah.
because he had the knife in my throat,
Ooh.
and I had to flee
Oh.
after he cut my hair
What?
as a hippie. See, you don't even know shit that
gotcha.
you
No.
you know you want to get heavy with this stuff.
No, we don't want to get
because-
heavy. We're in the
No,
lighthearted
I'm just
portion of the.
talking about
heavy.
martial arts,
Yeah.
fighting. Who do I want to kick ass?
him.
That dude.
That's the answer.
Yeah,
That's
but
the answer to the question.
He was
good-
he,
yeah.
he
You would go back in time and you'd win. So you'd whoop his ass. There you go.
but he whipped my ass. Only I escaped with my life.
That's hey,
Only because the other two guys who were with him realized they were going to have a dead hippie on their hands in a minute, and they didn't want to have that.
live to fight another day, or live to be
So,
a conscious.
he cut my hair
conscious object.
with a knife, stripped my boots,
That's fucked up.
cut me a little bit, put the knife in my throat, and they went, "It's time for us to pull the car over and let this guy out because otherwise he's going to be dead." So next time you ask that question to somebody, think about what you might be opening up in terms of a can of worms.
Sure.
Oh yeah, we're all.
And I'm, Adam, I love you, man. But could I chop your hand off? If you're the guy with the knife in my hand, whose ass am I gonna? Do I know how to do the?
Whoa. Yeah, you know some martial
Seriously.
arts.
cool. No,
I
yeah.
do because of that.
Sure.
So don't.
We're in the can opening.
I'm serious.
business.
I love you, man.
No, they were lighthearted questions. They
No,
were
we're
just
just-
meant to be lighthearted.
Sometimes you have to be careful.
You're right.
The lighthearted questions. If you're talking about what was the greatest jam you ever saw, but who do you want to kill with martial arts?
Well, I didn't say that.
Oh, we didn't say that.
Okay, who do you, what? How did you say it?
No, the
The-
question is
the-
who you're
the-
going to beat up.
No, the question,
Question is-
the
here, yeah.
the way that the questions are
Listen,
supposed to
here's
be.
how it's supposed to go. The dialogue.
supposed to go.
Here's how the
This is-
typical.
I love
lighthearted-
you, man.
Here's how the
this is how-
lighthearted. No,
this
he
is-
was right.
this is the light-
Here's how the.
no.
Here's how the
This is
lighthearted
the
dialogue
lighthearted.
went.
This is lighthearted. I go, Matt, Karate Kid or Back to the Future?
Karate Kid.
Have you ever been punched in the face?
Oh
Yes.
my gosh, yes.
Yes, I
there was
have.
this one time in high school. Okay, yeah.
That-
That's the
you know,
or
that's it.
or do you what's your favorite movie? Back to the Future. If you could go back in time, where would you go? That's it. It's
Yeah.
not like
Matt combined the two.
I combined
and
that said
opened
if
the-
you could
and
go
opened the
back in
can of
time,
worms.
I guess so. It was
Oh,
my
punch in the
I
face.
opened it. So
I
you
have
should
been
be
that
breaking.
too.
You should break my thumb. I'm
No,
the thumb.
I'm
you
not
wanna
gonna.
break.
I'm not.
But
gonna
okay,
break
so
anybody's
after
thumb.
that, if your last day in Nashville,
Yeah.
you're not dying. I'm not.
No,
trying to
no,
tell
I know.
this.
I'm pulling out of Nashville. I'm going to Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay, before
And I've got everything in my van, and I'm saying goodbye to Nashville, and I'm going to go to Bearded Iris, the brewery, and I'm going to have my last pints, and I'm going to say to Anna, who's one of the 4 owners, I love you. I mean, she's married, to the brewer, so I'm not doing any, I'm just,
You're not hitting on her.
you're
Got
just
it.
saying,
I love you, and thank you for everything, and I'm hitting the road. That's my last day in Nashville.
Just hanging out at Bearded Iris.
ladies and gentlemen, then
Nice.
Andy Ellis of rock and roll fame and off the clock debauchery.
Rock and roll historian.
And man, this has just been. I mean, this was as fun as I thought it was going to be. So I'm just glad that, of course, like 30th in, you were one of the first people. I think I said we were doing. I'm like, we got to get Andy Ellis on this, man. It's going to be good stories. So, everybody, go on. Go look up the archives
Sorry
of
about
not
the
only
thumb there.
Premier Guitar, of Guitar Player Magazine, everything. Check out what's going on, and then, like I said, music business.
And listen to Justin Kalk.
Yeah, there you go. There's a plug
Shout out
for
to
you.
Justin.
Oh,
Anything
man.
else, Adam?
I'm good.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too.
We'll see you for 31, folks, next
All right.
week.
Woo, woo.
Now that's
Not Andy either. And Andy. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Next week.
Well, but actually,
But I mean, the truth is, honestly, to your